who has recently returned to live in the UK after 5 years in the US. And this is the beginning of my story, really, of how I met my husband and the last 7 years that we spent together, that has recently ended a few weeks ago with our separation and our imminent divorce. So I actually met my husband in Bristol about 7 years ago. We actually met on a dating app called Bumble. It's where the girl speaks first, and I thought that was great because then I could kind of control the conversation. So I met.
The girls speak first on Bumble, huh? Okay, shoot they shot. I like it. What's going on, Hustle Nation? I just want to show you guys my eBay store. All right, this is my eBay drop shipping store. I make thousands of dollars every single month by drop shipping on eBay. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh the page to show you guys that this is a real eBay store, and then I'm gonna go ahead and move it to the right. So if you can see, today I made $360. In the last 7 days I made $4,600. 31 days, 18.5, and in the last 90 days I've made $32,000. If you guys are interested in learning how I do this, you guys can click the link in the description below. So if you want to learn how I'm making passive income every single month, making this money, all you have to do is click the link in the description below. I show you guys just for $47. Okay, for $47 you could be making passive income that could pay your car note, your rent, groceries, anything. All right, so make sure y'all tap in. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity where I'm showing you guys how to make money passively. I don't ship out orders. I don't have inventory on deck or anything like that. And of course, the most important question is, how much do I need to start? You need less than $100 to start. You need $47 to get inside so I can show you, and you need $47 to start your eBay store. That's it. A total of $94. So if you are interested, click the link in the description below.
With my husband on there, he was spending quite a bit of time, so he said, in California, and so we were chatting for a while, but we didn't necessarily meet like straight away. But I liked him. He was good looking, seemed to like to travel, seemed ambitious, seemed to tick all the boxes. So we arranged a first date and we met at a bar in Bristol, on the Triangle. And yeah, we had a really, really great first date. He told me that he was single. He told me that he didn't have any kids, had never been married, and that he lived in a particular building in Bristol, like an apartment complex that I had heard of. And it was a great first date. I mean, yeah, he was charming, he was sweet, he was just like everything you'd hope for. So we actually arranged a second date, and on the second date we went to a comedy club, and again, an amazing second date. And on this second date we had a first kiss, and he asked me if I wanted children and if I wanted to get married, and I said yes, absolutely. And he was like, yeah, me too. And he said that that would have been a deal breaker for him if I hadn't have wanted children or to get married. And I thought, gosh, I've like hit the jackpot here. He's ticks every box. So yeah, we continued to date. He kind of swept me off my feet, if I'm honest. Like, we would do weekends away in Cardiff and go for dinner and drinks, and we'd go up to Birmingham and London and just do loads of like really, really fun stuff if I was working from home. So I'd actually bought my own apartment in Bristol just before I met him, a couple of months before I met him. So I owned my own flat in Bristol, in Bedminster, and I had a really, really good job in HR, in construction. I was making, 50k plus, which in the UK is a really, really good salary. Yeah, I just felt like I kind of had it all, and I was ready to kind of meet the man of my dreams, I guess, and I kind of thought that I had. So yeah, the dates went really, really well. We were seeing each other for a couple of months. He would, leave flowers outside my door when I was working, or lunch, like a meal, just like a meal deal or something, but he'd just leave it outside my door when I was working. And yeah, he just ticked every single box. He started to spend quite a lot of time at my flat, and I kept saying to him, like, you live in this particular apartment complex, it's by an M&S in Bristol, and I was like, I would love to see your apartment, you're always at mine, I really, really want to see your apartment. And he was like, oh yeah, soon, and then
He ain't got no place.
Stop the cap.
Talking about soon.
He didn't. And at one point I was like, no, I need to see where you live. Like, why are you avoiding this question? It's so bizarre to me. And he was like, oh, I'm actually selling it, and the sale's just about to go through. And then before I knew it, he'd sold
Stop the cap.
Life had kind of moved on. I'll come back to that because that's pretty important. But yeah, so I was like, okay, fine. I also remember one evening we were just chilling at my flat, and a notification came up on his phone, and it was a notification from Tinder. And I was like, this is strange. Like, why are you getting notifications from Tinder? And he was like, it's old, it's not new. And he kind of like left the flat, and by the time he'd come back, he'd deleted Tinder off of my phone. So a couple of red flags there. One was the apartment and one was Tinder, but I liked him, and yeah, I really, really liked him. Like, fell pretty hard, pretty quick. Yeah, he ticked every box. Didn't have kids. I wanted someone without baggage. I wanted someone who kind of met me where I was at, you know, had a good job, I had a good job, and who owned his own place, because I owned my own place. So I was very clear with him that that was what I was looking for. No kids, had never been married, owned their own apartment, and just had a really, really good job. In time, I found out he only had a good job. The rest of them weren't so true. Quickly, we got very, very serious. We met in the September, and for New Year's Eve, he whisked me away to Paris, and we ended up going to Paris together. It was super romantic. It was amazing. I'd actually never been to Paris, and it was one of my favourite cities, and we just had the best time. We did have a bit of an incident in Paris where I'd been putting some photos on Instagram, but I wasn't ready to tag him yet because we hadn't had like any kind of chat about whether we were like exclusive, boyfriend, girlfriend. I assumed we were, but you know, that kind of odd stage. So I hadn't tagged him, and he got really, really funny with me in Paris and was like, "Are you embarrassed of me?" and just all these things. And we ended up having a bit of a row, and in the end I just tagged him in the photos. But yeah, I remember that being a little bit of a red flag. But yeah, we had an amazing time. We got back from Paris, and I was set actually to go traveling for 3 months in the February. I booked it long before I met him. I was going to do a little Asia trip, kind of Southeast Asia. It was something that I hadn't managed to do when I was younger. I'd finished uni and gone straight into work. And yeah, I was doing Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, Singapore, and just kind of like a little Asia trip. And I was 29 and I felt like it was my last kind of chance to do that, right? So I booked that. So for Christmas, he actually got me a trip to New York for Christmas. Yeah, it kind of meant that for me, I felt like it cemented that I was going to stay with him while I was away, because he'd obviously bought me this trip to New York. I mean, I liked him a lot anyway, but I felt like that was his reasoning behind getting me the New York trip, was because then he knew that I would obviously stay and be with him when I got back from traveling. So while I was away traveling, we spoke every single day, and before I knew it, he'd already moved into my apartment. So yeah, he moved into my apartment while I was traveling. It was obviously something that I agreed to. Oh, okay. But on reflection now, I'm like, that was very, very quick. So we met in the September and he'd moved into my apartment in like the March. So within like 6 months, he'd moved into my apartment. Yeah.
Hey, that ain't as bad as some of the other shit I seen. Some of y'all have a baby next month by a motherfucker y'all barely know. So I mean, that's way better than, ain't nobody moving in my crib in 6 months, but that's way better than goddamn some of y'all.
Maybe on reflection a bit of a red flag, but I really, really liked him. Definitely fell pretty hard. And yeah, so the minute that I got back from traveling, we were together, and he was living in my apartment, and he very, very quickly told me that he had a dream to move to California. And he told me that he had been on a plane and that he had met a potential business partner in California, and that we were going to look to move to California together. He asked me what my thoughts on that were, and I wasn't fully sure, but we ended up doing the New York trip that he'd obviously booked me for Christmas. And yeah, I was like, why not? Like, I like this guy. It's clearly serious. He said he wants kids and marriage, and has never had that before. And so yeah, I'm like, let's do it. Like, let's apply to move to California. So yeah, he started this business from my apartment. He was living in my flat, and yeah, set up this business in California, and we started working towards moving there together. Very, very quickly, we figured out that the only way for me to be able to move to America was if I married him. We'd only been together a couple of months, but that realization, yeah, there just didn't feel like there was another way for me to be able to go to America. So we started to make plans for us to visit the US, to go to California to see where we would be living around my 30th birthday, so February 2020, and we would take a little trip to Vegas. We actually had friends going, and we were going to go and see the Tyson Fury Wilder fight, which was amazing, and we would get married, and then we'd do a Grand Canyon trip. We would keep it really, really quiet, yeah, and we would get married.
Okay.
So one day, we're kind of planning all of this, and one day we are driving home from dinner with my family in Exeter, and we're driving back to Bristol, where we obviously now live together in my apartment, and he kind of drops a bombshell. He tells me that his mum had gone to prison for kind of like fraud, money laundering, white collar crime stuff, basically. Okay. A couple of years before, she had been caught taking money from her employer. I don't fully know the amount. Like the newspapers range from kind of 60 to 100 and something thousand that she'd taken.
Ooh, mom's going crazy.
the newspapers basically said that she had done it for him, that he had had debts from gambling, etc., and that she had done it in order to pay off his debts. He vehemently denied this and said it was not true, but that it was used potentially to like get her a lesser sentence or whatever the reasoning was. But that was the reasoning that was given in court, but he said that was not true.
Stop the cap.
So yeah, it was a bit of a red flag, and I was like, this is interesting. But I'd met his parents. They seemed nice enough. We got on okay. And yeah, I mean, she'd done the crime, done the time, and I didn't want to kind of hold that against her. So we kind of left it there. And he vehemently denied that had anything to do with him. So yeah, we continued to plan our trip to America to get married. We only told our closest friends, but we flew out to America, or I flew out to America in February to meet him there. So I met him in California, in Los Angeles, and he'd already been out there kind of trying to set up the business. So he wasn't working because he didn't have a visa yet, but he was trying to set up his business, build clients, that kind of stuff, kind of get everything ready for the new business. So I went out to meet him, and one day I just felt a bit of an urge to have a look at his phone. I don't really know what it was. I must have had doubts, intuition, whatever it was. I went through his phone and found something quite interesting. So I am in California on a trip, about to marry my husband. We're about to go to Las Vegas and get married. And I have an urge to go through his phone. So I went through his phone and I found a message from his mum, and I can't remember exactly what it said, but it said something like, I've paid the CSA for like this amount of money.
CSA?
And I was like, the CSA? Like, I'm a child of divorced parents, so I assumed that was like the child support agency or whatever. So I straight away spoke to him. I actually texted him because he wasn't there at the time, and I actually have a text with
community supported agriculture. Oh man, I don't know.
And it says, he came back and said, hey, no, it's nothing to do with children. I had a car and I had to, and I wrote it off, and basically I didn't have gap insurance, and now I need to pay for it. And it's actually the Credit Service Association. I have a text saying that, so I can prove that. Okay. I actually showed it to my cousin the other day, and she was like, whoa. But yes, so I found something saying that he had made a payment, or his mum had made a payment on his behalf to the CSA, and he told me it had nothing to do with children. He didn't have any children, and it was to do with a car. And I was like,
oh wow, there is such thing as the Credit Service Association. Oh my god. Oh yeah, that's in the United Kingdom. Okay,
if that's what you say. I didn't really have the kind of relationship with his parents where I felt that I could ask them, to be honest. I obviously mentioned in the previous video that his mum had been to prison. This is something that his family have never, ever discussed with me, ever. I have never, ever, ever had a discussion with his parents. It's like it happened and nobody ever talked about it ever again. So I didn't really have a relationship with them where I felt like I could ask that question, so I didn't. But yeah, we basically headed to Las Vegas. We got married in the same chapel as Brittany, and we had a fantastic time in Las Vegas. What I will say, and I haven't covered this off in some of my previous videos, is my husband, during like our dating phase and all of those, he pretty much paid for everything during like the dating phase. Like when we'd go out for drinks and dinner and all those things, he would always be paying. And he really, really did like sweep me off my feet. We lived this amazing lifestyle. We'd been on holiday to Dubai and the Amalfi Coast in Italy, and we'd done, Vegas and California. Like, we lived this amazing, amazing lifestyle. Okay. So basically, he was staying in America for a little bit longer to keep setting up the business, and I was flying back to the UK to go back to work. So I flew back to the UK, and as I was flying back to the UK, there was a lot of people in masks. People were starting to talk about this new flu, and COVID hit. He was still in America when COVID hit. I was messaging him from the UK because I'd landed by this point. None of our families, by the way, knew that we were married. My family didn't know, his family didn't know. We'd only told our closest friends because we wanted to get married properly another time. And so I was messaging him from the UK like, OMG, don't know what this virus is. Looks really, really scary. I want you to come back to the UK because I was scared that they'd like shut the borders in America and that he wouldn't be able to leave or something like that. Like, it was, if you think back now, COVID was pretty scary at the beginning, wasn't it? He flew out. He got one of the last flights, I think, out of Vegas, really. So he flew from LA to Vegas and then flew back to the UK to be with me, and COVID hit. We are now in like February, March 2020, and my husband had to get a flight out of the US and come back to the UK because obviously everywhere was just like shutting down. And yeah, if you remember that time, it was pretty scary. So he came back to the UK. We were in lockdown for a lot of it. We actually spent the whole of lockdown in my apartment in Bristol. So in a little 2-bed apartment, we had no garden or anything. He didn't have an income. He had quit his job. He'd actually come home.
I was about to say, how was he paying for everything? Because she said he didn't have a job, but I guess he had one, then he quit it. Because she said he was paying for everything, all the trips and everything.
A few months before, and basically just announced that he'd quit his job. He was living in my flat and he had now had no income, so I was kind of funding our whole lifestyle. And yeah, we were just living in COVID. I was working and he was setting up the new business, and yeah, it was kind of nice. I kind of enjoyed COVID, I'll be honest. I enjoyed not really having to go anywhere, doing some baking, doing some cooking, doing all of that. It was just kind of like a peaceful time. And we did also really get to know each other's families during that time. We did a lot of like online quizzes, if everyone remembers all of that stuff. But one thing that really stuck out to me during that time was that I never really met any of his friends. So I have quite a few different friends. I've got my university friends, my school friends, my American friends, my Bristol friends, and he got to know like all of my friends. But I didn't really get to know any of his. I've only ever, so we've been together 7 years, I've only ever met one of his friends. He just never introduced me to anyone. He would mention names of people and I just never ever met them. So yeah, on reflection, that was a bit of a red flag, but he was always just a bit of a loner. And I'm not saying that in a horrible way. He just enjoyed his own company, and also enjoyed
kind of like me.
my company, and it just kind of worked. So it wasn't something that I was too concerned about, to be honest. But yeah, so we did COVID. Got to know each other's friends and family. Everything was great. Like we basically applied for our visa. The American embassy was shut at the time, so we did an E2 visa for his business, and we were just sat waiting basically to see if the American embassy would approve his business. It was just it was an exciting time, but also just nerve-wracking, you know, like, are we going to move to America or not? So after 10 months, so I think it was December 2020, we finally got an interview at the embassy. So we went up to London together. We stayed in a hotel. We went for like a few London dinners. I mean, it was still COVID time, so not everything was open. We still had to wear masks and stuff. But yeah, we did our interview. The interview for the E2 visa was actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. He obviously had done a huge amount of prep with the E2 visa process, and with just with the whole thing. He was like super prepared. I went up with him. We were married. So yeah, he had his visa approved in December 2020, and I had my spouse visa approved at the same time. And he straight away in December, just straight after Christmas and right before New Year, he flew straight to America to get going and get started on the business. And I stayed in the UK until February. I owned my own apartment in Bristol, so I put that on like up to let. And I carried on working because I was due to get quite a big bonus. So my bonus that I think was paid out around Christmas time, I think, was around about £15,000. So I had a pretty big bonus paid out. And I also, you know, was continuing to make a salary. I've mentioned in a previous video, I was making kind of 50 grand a year. I think it was 55,000 a year I was making. So I was making some good money. And what I was doing was I was staying with my mum. I was renting out my apartment.
Ooh, £15,000. That was a $20,000 bonus. Holy.
Bristol, and every single penny that I made, I was sending to him in America. So he was working in America and I was working, and we were just saving every single penny so that when I finally went out to America, we would have a bit of money saved. So yeah, I finally moved to America in February of 2021. I have just moved to America, so it was February 2021. I've just moved to America to be with my husband. Just before I left to go to America, and I am just going to say, I am trying to keep people's privacy here, like of my family, of my husband and his family. But
I want to say it sounds pretty cheap to live in the UK, eh? Like she said, like 50,000 a year was pretty good. She had owned her apartment. That's pretty good.
But one thing that my dad did do was give me 2 pocket watches. He gave me one Rolex pocket watch and one sterling silver pocket watch. And he said to me, if you're ever in trouble, sell these. And then I know that you have something to kind of look after you, right?
Oh, wow. Shout out to Pops. He had the Rolex. That family got a little money.
I'm just mentioning that because I'll come back to it later in the story. So it's just something to keep in mind, okay?
Don't tell me my boy stole your watches now.
But yeah, so I moved to America. I initially couldn't work. So I've had a lot of questions on this. My husband is British. I am also British. He set up a business in order to get an E2 visa, and I went on an E2 spouse visa. It seemed like the only way that I could join him was on that visa. There didn't seem to be another visa type for me. Maybe there was, but I couldn't find one. So I went on an E2 spouse visa. But at the time, the rules have now changed. I couldn't work on an E2 spouse visa straight away. I had to apply for the ability to work. So initially I couldn't work, and very, very quickly, so I mentioned that he had a business partner, but very, very quickly upon moving, that basically fell through. And so he went from having a business partner who was supposed to give him work and money, obviously work to kind of make money, to suddenly having no business partner and no way to make money. So things got a little bit tight quite quickly, and he needed to make some money very, very fast.
Hold on, y'all. Let me go get my little smoothie because I'm starving right here and I don't want to pause it. I could have paused it, but I'm about to just go get the smoothie.
But yeah, I wasn't able to work, so we got a dog. My baby Cleo. Yeah, she was my first baby. Yeah, absolutely love my dog. I have not seen my dog. She is in the UK. I have not seen her since she's been in the UK. At the moment, he's not allowing me to have any visitation with her. We were supposed to have 50-50, 1 week with him, 1 week with me, but at the moment he's not allowing that. And yeah, it's obviously a bit contentious with the kids and with everything else, so I'm kind of not pushing too hard, but I'm hoping at some point that I'll have 50-50 with my pup. So yeah, but yeah, so living in America, bills racking up. My husband needs to get the business off the ground. My husband was one of those people who, you know, at one point he came home and he was like, I bought a boat, or I bought a camper van. He was very like one of those people who just purchased big purchases, didn't really discuss them with me that much. But he would usually kind of flip the boat or flip the camper van and makes a bit of money on it. So it's just very much like his personality. But yeah, so nobody knew that we were married, and we're living in America together. And yeah, it's amazing. Like the lifestyle was great. We started to make friends. We started to settle in. The business started to take off. And one day he was like, hey, let's take the dog for a walk one Friday. We'll head up to towards like Santa Ynez, so like kind of like towards wine country, just past Santa Barbara. And he was like, we'll go for a walk, there's a waterfall there. And we went for a walk, and we went to this waterfall, and yeah, my husband got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. Aww. Although we were married, I still wanted like the dream, girls. I still wanted to be asked to be married. I still wanted the ring, I still wanted the white dress, I still wanted all of those things, and my husband knew that, and he made that happen for me. The engagement for me was definitely one of the best days of my life. Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. Yeah, beautiful waterfall. I had my pup there, had, you know, what I thought was the man of my dreams. The ring was amazing. It was a 1.7 carat Marquise diamond, beautiful engagement ring. Yeah, it was amazing. And this meant that we could start planning our American wedding. So we always wanted a really, really small wedding, and we planned to get married in America. So we got engaged, I think, in like May 2021, and we planned our wedding for February 2022. We actually got married in Santa Rosa Valley in an amazing house, kind of looking out with amazing views. We only had about 25 guests, but this is where there's another red flag that I probably should have thought more about. And I mentioned earlier that my husband was a bit of a loner, but basically at our wedding, it was my friends and family, and then his parents and his sister. He didn't invite any friends or anything like that. And like I said, I never really met any of his friends. He was always just a bit of a loner, and I don't say that to be mean. It's just very much like his personality. So yeah, so again, had an incredible wedding, had just, yeah, the time of our lives, and yeah, we're living this absolutely incredible life in America. And then things start to kind of get a little bit different. So we got married in February, and in I think it was either April or May, we actually moved. So we were living in Ventura. We actually moved to Westlake Village, and we moved into this amazing, amazing house. And one evening I'm sat on the sofa with my husband, newly married, new house, business is taking off. We live in America, like it's all going really, really well, right? And I'm sitting on my husband on the sofa, and we were like watching a program, and he started to I'm not going to do the movements because I don't know how triggering this is going to be for people, but he basically started to like shake and convulse, and I was like, hey, stop doing that, you're scaring me. And he didn't stop, and he was having a seizure, and he had a seizure for about 5 minutes. I called the police. I would love to hear my 911 call. I called an ambulance and was like, I think my husband's having a brain hemorrhage and dying. He had bitten his tongue, there was blood everywhere. Wow. It is still to this day, I think, probably like one of the most horrifying things that I have ever witnessed, is watching the man that you love potentially die. Like, I thought he was dying. So he had his first seizure, and yeah, it was awful. We went straight to the hospital. We got an ambulance straight to the hospital, and he didn't know why he'd had a seizure. He'd never had one before in his life. They didn't know why he had a seizure. I will say, I've done videos on American healthcare before, but the service that he got was incredible. Within 3 hours, he had been in the ambulance, gone to the hospital in Thousand Oaks, been seen, had like CAT scans, you know, all the stuff, blood tests, everything, and been released, and they had no idea why he had a seizure. So we just hoped that it was just a one-off, like a random thing, right? And then a week later, we're sat on the sofa and the same thing happened. So I called an ambulance again, because at this point we were still kind of going through testing and trying to figure out what had happened. But yeah, so basically we go to the hospital and he has all these tests again, and then we get home, and about a week later or a couple of days later, he's like, hey, I've got something I need to tell you.
Okay.
I think I know why I'm having my seizures. And my husband basically comes clean and tells me that he has been driving from Westlake Village, where we live, all the way to Santa Ana, which is like a 2.5-hour drive, to pick up illegal prescription pain meds. And he tells me that he has been taking tramadol. So the reason I'm calling them illegal prescription pain meds is because potentially if you go to a doctor, you can be prescribed these like opioid painkillers, right? But then the doctor would give you a prescribed amount to take, and they would control the substance. He was getting them illegally, so he was getting them from somebody in Santa Ana and taking an amount that he didn't know how much he should be taking. So just to go back a little bit, my husband, when I met him, has kind of always had back pain. He told me that he'd had a car accident when he was much younger, maybe 16, 17, 18, something like that, and he'd hurt his back. And so I knew that he had back problems. And I think
Yo, this is why you gotta be going into people medicine cabinets when you start dating them. You gotta really get that history. You know what I'm saying? You find out. This sounds like something I heard before. You find out a year or two later that the motherfucker taking pain pills and shit. You know what I'm saying? Or on some type of drugs or some shit. That's why I say vet these motherfuckers, y'all. Y'all better vet them.
He'd been working, he'd hurt his back again. I know that when we were in America, he'd gone to urgent care quickly for a bad back. And I'm not sure if they then prescribed him tramadol there, I don't know. But yeah, so he ended up taking a large amount of prescription pain drugs, basically. And he said that he felt that that might have been what led to his seizures. So we discussed it with his neurologist and all of those things, and they just weren't sure. So we carried on with the testing, basically. But I wasn't pissed off that my husband might have a prescription pain med problem, because that's something I could support him in. I wasn't pissed off about any of that. What I was pissed off about and hurt about was the fact he lied. The fact that he must have said to me, hey, I'm going to work, but he hadn't. He'd been driving all the way to Santa Ana, a round trip of maybe 4 to 5 hours in order to get drugs that I knew nothing about, keeping them in the house and just not telling me, taking them and letting me watch him have a seizure, letting me watch him thinking that he's going to die, but actually he thinks that he knew why he was having seizures. So his parents fly out to America to kind of support, which was great.
Shout out to his parents.
They didn't really seem too concerned, to be honest, about him lying about the prescription pain drugs. On reflection, that really, really should have been a red flag. But I just assumed that they just weren't giving much away about their disappointment in their son, if that makes sense. So he continued to have seizures. He had seizures for probably the next 2 years, on and off. But yeah, he told me that he'd stopped taking tramadol and that he'd stopped taking those prescription pain meds, and he was also taking some anti-seizure medication and things like that. So yeah, we kind of moved forward. While his parents were out visiting us, they did actually let us know that they had found our marriage certificate. So they had found our original marriage certificate and knew that we had been married in Vegas, so before our American wedding. And it was quite an interesting conversation, because I actually remember his mum saying to me, wow, you're a really, really good liar. Like, the fact you were able to lie to my face for so long shows you're a really, really good liar. And I'll come back to that. I'm just going to keep that energy. But yeah, so my husband was having seizures, but things were kind of getting back on track, right? And we decided that we were going to start trying for a baby. So if I can just go back a little bit, when my husband had those seizures, I said to him, I need to make sure that you're not lying to me about anything else. Just tell me everything. Like, if there's nothing else, there's nothing else. I feel like my gut, my intuition must have known there were other lies, right? But I just wasn't listening. I wasn't listening to my gut. And I feel like we've all been there. We've all not listened, right? So I said to him, please tell me, is there anything else before we start trying for a baby? Is there anything else that I need to know? And he was like, nope, nothing, absolutely nothing, nothing else you need to know. So we started trying for a baby, and I immediately got pregnant. Like within a month, I was pregnant. So I wasn't working in the US. I just got my right to work. We basically decided that I wouldn't get a job because we didn't know how pregnancy would affect me. But he would continue with the business, which was going really, really well. And we would continue on the
Shout out to my boy. I like that.
trajectory of just him working, and then I would be a stay-at-home mum with what we found out would be a little boy. So I had a bit of a tough pregnancy. My son was absolutely huge. I ended up having to have a C-section. So yeah, and I had my little boy. My mum came out to visit him. It was super, super exciting. And then my husband's parents flew out to meet our son. So at this point, my son is kind of 6 to 8 weeks old. And in the middle of the night, one night, I'm breastfeeding my son, and I am looking through my phone, and I realise that there's some messages in my archive in my Instagram. I think it was my Instagram, or was it my Facebook? It might have been my Facebook. I think it was my Facebook. So I go in and like, they're kind of hidden. They're like in that hidden part, you know? And I click on them and I realise that there's quite a few messages from the same person going back a couple of months now, kind of like 2 months. And this woman she tells me that she is the cousin of a woman in Bristol who has 2 children with my husband.
Damn.
To my phone, and I found some messages from a woman who's telling me that her cousin has 2 children with my husband. So I am obviously really gobsmacked. I'm really taken aback. It obviously reminds me of when I found a comment from my husband's mum to him referencing the CSA when he told me that it wasn't. And I am just kind of sat there thinking, like, what the actual hell? Like, I've just had a baby with you. Like, this can't be true.
Damn.
We obviously had a discussion after the seizures. You told me there was nothing else. Like, this can't be true, right? So it's the middle of the night. I don't sleep. My husband wakes up and obviously realizes that I know, and he is like, I'm so sorry. I love you. I lied because I loved you. I lied because I didn't want you to leave.
Stop the cap.
Really, really justifying why he did what he did. But he tells me
You could have told her that in the beginning, bro.
that it's not 2 children, it's 1. He has 1 child with this lady. She's saying it's 2 because she's trying to ruin his life.
It is too.
That basically, this is his story, that he had met her. They had had like a brief fling, right? More just kind of sleeping together. And then she had told him that she was pregnant. She had then told him that she was going to have an abortion, and that she'd gone and had the abortion. Then about 18 months after this later, she comes back and says, hey, actually, I didn't get an abortion. I had your baby. And I now want you to pay for that baby. I don't want you to be in the baby's life, but I want you to pay for that baby. So this is his story.
Damn.
The woman that I'm messaging, the cousin of this baby mama, is obviously saying that that's not true. But I spoke to his parents, and his parents are like, it's 1 child. They never said, I'm sorry that we lied to you. They just said it wasn't our place to tell you, and it's 1 child. So I've got him and his parents telling me it's 1 child.
Oh. The mom and the dad knew.
Hello, motherfucker.
I'm like, how could it be 2 kids? His parents have never met this child. He's saying he's never met this child. Like it just can't be true. And his parents have so many derogatory things to say about this lady. I remember his mom at some point saying something so rude about her. You know, something around, you know, she must have slept around or something like that. And I remember saying, why is your son sleeping with someone who's sleeping around? Like, surely that's just as shameful. I just remember they had so many negative things to say about this lady. And I remember saying, I feel like she's so, if she's this angry with you guys, I can see why. Like, your son got her pregnant and then just walked away, and she's been left to raise this child. So I could totally like see why she would have been angry, right? But they just didn't seem to have, if I'm honest, any like compassion or empathy or sympathy for her situation. They just felt like their son had been trapped. So yeah, so him and his parents adamant it's 1 child, right? It's 1 child. So I believe it. I've got no choice but to believe it, guys, right? I have a 6-week, 8-week-old baby, something like that. I'm in America. This baby doesn't have his American passport yet. I've got nowhere to go. I've got nowhere to go. I am trapped. I knew that I had to make this marriage work. I'm 6, 7, 8 weeks postpartum. I'm breastfeeding. I've got a new baby, and I'm in shock. I'm not gonna lie, I'm in shock. Like, I feel like all the trust from our marriage is completely eroded because you lied about the drugs and then you've lied about this. It, like, everything is eroded, and it was awful. But he really, really tried hard to win me back. He was so apologetic. You know, I love you, I want to be with you, I did it because I loved you. And it was a difficult time. It was a difficult time in our marriage, and we spent about a year in marriage counselling trying to get to the bottom of, like, why did you lie? Like, why couldn't you just be honest? And I remember him saying to me, and he said this numerous times throughout our marriage, he didn't feel like he could be honest with me. And I'm like, you lied on the day you met me, mate. You told me you didn't have any kids on the day you met me. So if you didn't think you could be honest with me from day one, why did you marry me? Why did you go out with me? Why did you have kids with me? But anyway, so he's saying that he has one child with this woman, and that he isn't paying for that child at the moment. I'm obviously saying to him, you need to pay for that child. This is why this woman has come forward to tell me, right? Because he stopped paying for his child that he still should have been paying for. This child, I believe at the time, is kind of like 16, 17 years old, so he doesn't need to pay for that much longer. But I do say to him, you need to be paying for this child. But to be honest, my focus isn't on that right now. It's on survival. It's on survival of me and my kid and just kind of moving forward. During this time, my husband did invite one of my friends' husbands to work for him. It was my best friend in America at the time. They ended up having a falling out while he was working for my husband. I don't really know the full details on this. I should reach out to that kind of ex-friend and try and find out. But she was my best friend, and we ended up picking the sides of our husbands, and that ended our friendship. So yeah, that was really, really sad. That was really, really sad. Maybe I'll reach out to her and yeah, just kind of see that. But I think one of the things that I felt like I had to do continually while I was in America was stand by my husband. I was in a foreign country without any family around, with a small baby. I very much wanted to believe everything he told me, and I wanted to believe in my marriage.
I feel that.
So during this time, I basically start saying to my husband, I think it's time for us to go home. So we've been living in America for a couple of years by this point, kind of 3 years or so, and I wanted to go home. I wanted to have my family around me. I wanted support. I mentally was probably not in the best place after finding out all these lies, right? And so we got his business valued, and it was valued at a very, very nice number. I don't really know if I should be mentioning numbers on here, but
Dang. So he did good. What kind of business was that? Okay, my boy know how to make some money. Found a business partner on a plane. I need to start traveling. Shit.
it was mentioned just under, it was valued just under $2 million.
Ooh.
And he starts tendering for the business to be sold. And yeah, we kind of start that journey. So
Dang, what kind of business was that? I need to make me one of those. 2 million? Man.
we did secure a buyer initially. This was when we were living in Westlake Village, but that buyer actually fell through, and so we went back on the market with the business, and we decided to move to Orange County to grow the business. So we'd been in Ventura County, kind of in Los Angeles, a lot in the Valley, and he decided that he would put that business up for sale, and we'd move down to Orange County and try and grow the business there, and then just see if we could get more money, even more money from the sale. So we moved down to Orange County, and things just start to get really difficult financially, in relation to my husband's seizures and some more lies in the county, and we quite quickly start to have some financial issues. I'm not sure if my husband took his foot off the gas with the valuation of the business. I'm not really sure what happened, to be honest, but we just start to have some financial issues. And living in America, especially California, you will know some big bills. So we start to have some financial issues. Two things happen. When we move from Westlake Village to Orange County, the pocket watch that I mentioned that my dad had given me, so the Rolex pocket watch,
yeah, I was
and
wondering.
also the sterling silver pocket watch, they go missing during that move, and I still to this day have not found them. I do not know where they have gone, so we can draw conclusions from that however we wish, but
That's the only thing about having like material, like little small stuff that's worth stuff. It's probably best to put it in like maybe a PO box or something like that, because if you lose it and if it's not insured, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? We all know cars are depreciating values, but at least you know where your car at. You know what I'm saying? Like it's big, but those little small items, like somebody just told me they got some watches stolen, and because I was thinking about getting a watch, but somebody told me they got their watch stolen, and just by getting some work done in their house, and I was just like, nah, I think I'm straight.
I have no idea where those watches are. And the second one is, So my dad was very, very unwell. I'm going to keep his privacy from this, but my dad was very, very unwell and my dad was dying. My dad decided to give me a little bit of money, a little bit of inheritance. I'm not going to give too much away, but he gave me a bit of inheritance, and I didn't have a savings account set up in the US, but my husband did. So my dad sent that money straight to my husband and said, you know, please use it towards a house once I'm gone one day. My dad actually died 2 years ago, but yeah, so my husband,
Rest in peace to her father. Please tell me he ain't take that money and do something with it.
at this point now has access or has hold of my inheritance from my dad, basically.
Damn.
Within a couple of weeks of moving to Orange County, my dad does actually pass away. During that time, I had put my apartment in Bristol that I had mentioned up for sale, and I came back to the UK for his funeral. And on the day of my dad's funeral, really, really randomly, it all collided, my flat sale actually went through. So I had my dad's inheritance and I also had my flat sale money.
The flat sale money went to your bank account? Please tell me.
While I'm in the UK for my dad's funeral, my husband mentions to me that, as I said, we were having a few financial issues and could he borrow some money? So initially I said, you know, if we dip into the inheritance for my dad, we need to pay it back. And that was made really, really clear. I think at one point he did take around about 10,000 out of that, but he was always adamant that he would pay it back. And with the money from my apartment sale, I did again send him some money on the pretext that he would pay that money back. So I sent him around about 50,000 from my flat sale. Again, I have text messages from him saying, yes, we'll pay back the money from your flat. Yes, we'll make sure that your money from your dad's inheritance goes back into those accounts. It was just to kind of tide us over.
So my boy got a 60 ball on him. Okay.
You know,
y'all think he started using that money to because he was still having seizures. I would think if you completely stopped taking the medication that you was taking, that you shouldn't have seizures anymore. You know what I mean? So hopefully he's not using all that money to continue getting them pills.
So my dad dies, a lot of betrayal, we're in marriage counselling, financial issues, all of those things are happening, right? And I end up going back to Orange County after I'd been in the UK for my dad's funeral. I'm back in Orange County and it's just a melting pot, really. We're just not in the best place. It's a really, really difficult time. Like I said, financially, just everything going on. There's so many moving parts and kind of things happening in my life, right? And like I said, pocket watches went missing. And because my dad had died, it really pains me that those are missing. I would love one day to try and find them wherever they are. I don't know if they got sold or kind of what happened to them, but would love to try and find those ones, one day. Anyway, so we're now living in Orange County and I just could not get this niggling feeling out of my head about the two children. I kept having a conversation. Every time I'd argue with my husband, I'd say, why is she saying it's two kids? Like, I don't understand. And he would say, she's trying to ruin my life. She's trying to ruin my life. And so at this point, I think we're like October 2024, I want to say. We're roughly around there. So kind of October, November 2024, I decide to actually message the baby mama. And just get to the bottom of it, because it's just niggling away at me. I wasn't in a good place. Like I said, all these things are going on in my life. So I message her and I say, hey, I think you know who I am, and I just want to know, is it one child or is it two children? Ooh. And she very, very quickly comes back to me and she responds and she sends me a screenshot proving that he has two children with her. She confirmed this through conversations with him, basically, where he said things like, yes, I have two children, or yes, this is to pay for both boys, or whatever, right? So he has two boys.
So he using a little bit of Pop's inheritance money, her inheritance money from Pop's, to give the kids some money. That's where a little bit of it going. We don't know where the rest going.
By a previous relationship. And so I obviously asked for her side of the story, and she told me, and I'll just briefly go over it because obviously this is her story, not mine. But she basically says that they had a relationship.
Okay.
She told him that she was pregnant with the first child, and he wanted her to have an abortion, but she didn't. He was in that first child's life for a few months, and they were obviously sleeping together. And then she announced to him that she was pregnant again. So what's
her husband's name? Did she say? I ain't gonna lie, bro. You deserve that. You deserve your 2 kids, gang. How you have a baby by somebody? They want you. You want. How you want the girl to get an abortion? You like, damn, I really didn't want this baby. Just please get an abortion. Had a baby, and then get her pregnant again.
With the second child, and he basically did a runner, and she didn't see him again. She said that he did meet the first child, but he never met the second child. His parents, I don't believe, met either of the children. That she'd had to chase him extensively for money for both of the children on and off over the years. I think the children were in their kind of late teen years. I don't want to give too much away about them because this is also their story, and I am in touch with her. She is providing support to me. We are in touch. She's a good woman. So yeah, we are talking. So, and I know that she's watching it. So hi.
That's nice.
But yeah, so he has 2 children with another.
At least her kid will get, I know they brother or sister. I don't know if he had 2, whatever you got, but.
A woman that I knew nothing about. And I was just baffled, really. He came clean about the first child. Why didn't you just say you had 2 children? Like, why? Like, why did you lie again? And why did your parents lie for you again? Like, I was just literally baffled. So I go and I speak to my husband and I'm like, you have 2 kids with this woman. Like, here's the evidence. Do you know what he said to me?
What'd he say?
Why did you feel the need to go snooping? Why did I feel the need to go snooping? Like, seriously? Anyway, so I'm pretty pissed off and annoyed. Like, lying to me once about having a child, like, this sounds silly, but I think I'd rationalised it in my head. I was like, he loves me, he didn't want to lose me, he wanted to marry me. Like, it kind of not flattered me, but do you know what I mean? I was able to justify it to myself. I wasn't able to justify lying twice. Like, how do you justify that? So we were not in a good place. We were arguing a lot. He was apologetic to an extent, but like just not enough for my liking. I'm going to be really, really honest. And his parents, crickets, just didn't really say anything about the second child. Didn't really have anything again positive to say about this other baby mama. All these children, and I mean, these are 2 children. Like, that they should have been seeing, you know, the whole family should have been seeing, the whole family should have been paying for. It shouldn't have been so painful. And I've had this comment on here before. Would I have married my husband if I'd have known that he had 2 children with another woman that he didn't see? And the answer's no. Mm-hmm. If he'd have told me while we were dating, look, I've got 2 children with this woman and this is the relationship I have with her, and she sent me screenshots of conversations back and forth with him, and the way that he has spoken to her, the names that he has called her, horrified me. I was like, you speak to women like that? Like, you can just imagine the things he said to her. And so no, I wouldn't have married him, which obviously I have 2 kids with him. I'm glad that I married him for my 2 children. Amazing. But yeah, I wouldn't have married you, mate. I'm sorry. I would have ended it there and then. So it's, yeah, good job for him, I guess, that he didn't tell me. Anyway, so I find out that he's got 2 kids, and I immediately say to him, I want to go home. I want to go back to the UK. Like, I am not happy here. I need some time to think. I need some time to be with my family. My cousin had actually been out visiting me with her 2 daughters, and I just had the most intense family time, you know, watching my son with his cousins. So my cousin's kids, we just call them his cousins. And I was like, oh, I just want to go home. And initially he was like, if you take my son out of the US, I'm going to, you know, prosecute you for international kidnapping. But then he was like, actually, do you know what? Maybe it would be good for us to have some space so that he could like think about things, I could think about things, and we could make a decision. So I packed up a bag, and within a couple of days, I flew back to the UK with my son. Yeah, it's an 11-hour flight that I had to take on my own. So yeah, really, really not ideal. But I flew back, went back with my family, and I finally told my family. So everything that had been happening with the first child and stuff, I hadn't told anybody at all. The only person that I had told about my husband's first child, was my best friend Amy.
Dang, so her parents didn't even know. I thought her parents knew. Wait, no. Yeah, no, her parents know she got a baby. My bad. She ain't know.
So I know you're watching, Ames. Hi. She's the only person that I told about that first child. I hadn't told anybody else. Damn. And so I went home and I just told my family. I'd been keeping it in, and there was so much shame there for me, and I just needed to talk to people. So I went home and told my family, right? And I was just conflicted. Do I stay? Do I go? What do I do? Can I ever trust this man again? what other lies does he have? You know, like, I was just baffled. Like, what else can you lie about? What else are your parents going to cover up for you? I remember saying to him, if you have an affair, your parents are going to cover that up for you. If a woman comes and knocks on my door one day and says, I've been sleeping with your husband, I'm never going to believe you because you've lied to me so many times. Like, the trust had completely eroded in our marriage, right? So I've been back for 4 days, and I say to my cousin, I haven't had my period. Can you get me a pregnancy test? So basically, I'd flown back to England. I was staying with my cousin because she had 2 kids, right? And I said to her, I've missed my period. Don't suppose you can grab me a pregnancy test when you go out? So she quickly popped to the shop, grabbed me a pregnancy test, dropped it off, and then she was like, I'll go out with your little boy, and then you can take it, and like, I'm sure it's fine, right? So I like took the pregnancy test. I was pregnant, so
Damn.
So yeah, I have just taken a pregnancy test and found out that I'm pregnant in the UK. And this kind of cemented for me, I think, just straight away that I needed to make my marriage work. I am the child of divorced parents, and it was just the last thing on this planet that I wanted for my kids. My parents, you know, did the best that they could do. Hats off to them. But nobody wants to have kids and then split up. Like, nobody wants that for their kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found out I was pregnant, and I was like, right, I need to make my marriage work. Like, I need to make this work. We'd been seeing a marriage counsellor, which meant that my husband had been paying a marriage counsellor for him and I for over a year, really, and lying to the marriage counsellor. So we came out of marriage counselling because it just felt completely pointless, to be honest, and just started trying to kind of focus on us. So we actually had a cruise booked. So I knew that I would be returning to the US to go on a cruise over Christmas that year. But having found out that my husband sent so many lies, I was obviously very, very angry. And I knew that he had some of my money, so my inheritance, in an account. And I wanted him to send it to me, basically, so that I could keep hold of it. Because I was like, I no longer trust you in any way. I need you to send me this money. So he sent me screenshots being like, yep, here's your inheritance. Here it is. Great. And I was like, okay, brilliant.
Send it.
Send it to me. And he was like, okay, I'll send it to you. And it just kept
Send it to me now while I'm on the phone with you now.
Coming. And in the end, I got really angry, and I said to him, you're not sending me my money. Send me my money, or your parents don't get a visit with my son, because I've just had enough of playing this game. And like, that's not really the right thing to do, to use my son as a pawn, but I didn't feel like I had any other like power to use. So I said that. I said, send me the money, or your parents don't get to see my son. And he basically was like, I can't. It's gone. I've spent it. Yeah. So I then quickly realised that I'd sent him obviously money from my...
So you lied again. Where the fuck? What these screenshots come from?
Flat sale. My inheritance is now gone, so he now owes me a decent amount of money. But I'm pregnant with his child, and I just wanted to make it work. I think like I just had this hope that like I'd left, and you know, I was having 2 kids with him, like he'd change, he'd see that I was worth not lying to anymore. Like, what are the things we tell ourselves, women? I feel like so many of us have been there. Like, we see potential rather than what things actually are. Yeah, like I just really wanted to see the good in him. Anyway, so it was pretty early days. I was like 6 or 7 weeks pregnant. I was heading back to the US. We were going on a cruise that we booked ages ago, and we're going on a Caribbean cruise over Christmas. And so I basically decided to do a sneak peek pregnancy test. It's where you can find out the gender really early. So my cousin is a nurse, and she actually...
They got those? Oh, they got them at the hospital.
She did the test for me to make, because it's a blood test, and you do the blood test and then you kind of send it over to a lab, and then they confirm early what gender you're having. So I did that test, and then I packed up my stuff very nervously, left the US, left the UK, and flew to Miami to meet my husband, or ex-husband. I need to start saying ex-husband, to meet my ex-husband to go on a cruise. So I get to Miami with my son, and we start getting ready to go on the cruise. I haven't had any healthcare at any point, by the way, for this baby, because I've been in the UK and I wasn't using the NHS. So we decided to go for a scan. So we went for a scan, we saw the baby, everything was great. And then we decided to go on the cruise. I get I get a text saying that the sneak peek test results are back, and I was really, really, really hoping for a girl. So we get the test results, I open them up, and I find out that I'm having a little boy. I cried. I cried a lot. And the reason that I cried was because this other baby mama has 2 boys. And I just felt like I didn't have my own story. Like, I didn't marry someone and have kids with someone who I knew had a previous family. I thought that I was doing everything for the first time with this guy, right? I thought I was having his kids. I thought we were getting, I thought we were doing all of these things as firsts together.
Right.
And so to find out that I was kind of following in her footsteps and having another boy, I was absolutely gutted. And that can sound really, really shallow, but it's just, I guess it's part of my story, and it's something I kind of wanted to own up to.
It's cool. It's cool.
So
I get it.
Yeah, I found out that I was having a little boy. Anyone who has followed my TikTok, this isn't going to be giving much away, knows that it actually turned out to be a little girl. But yeah, I was pretty gutted in that moment.
She got what she wanted.
So yeah, we end up going on the cruise, and yeah, we had a really, really good time as a family, to be honest. It was kind of what we needed to kind of try and get back on track, I guess. So we go on the cruise, we then fly back to Orange County where we're living. And when we get back, the house is an absolute tip. My husband had basically gone on like free house sitting website and found somebody to sit for the house. And he was like, when I left, the house was immaculate, and this guy has come in and left it a mess, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, this is horrific. And he had set up that account using my email address so I could access the house sitting account. And so my husband leaves like a scathing review for this house sitter, saying how he's disgusting and dirty and all these things. And then this house sitter messages me and says, hey, I just want to let you know that like when I turned up to the house, 2 things happened. 1, the house was disgusting. Like, it was really, really gross. And your husband asked me if I could clean, and like, no offense, but no, I'm not cleaning up your stuff. So I left it in the state that I found it in. And I was like, doesn't match my husband's story. And the second one he said was, and I also felt really, really unsafe in your house because after a couple of days of staying there, your husband's truck got repossessed in the middle of the night, and it was quite scary.
Oh, wow.
So when we got back, I'd been like, oh, where's your truck? And he was like, oh, I'm just storing it somewhere. No, his truck had been repossessed.
Stop the cap.
That's how bad the financial issues were. And I was like, so you're lying again? I've just gotten back from the UK because of lying. And you're lying again. Like, you're still lying.
Shit, he lied when he sent you that damn screenshot with no money in it. When he said he ain't had that money.
So, yeah, things start to go downhill
damn.
pretty quickly. Things start to get bad pretty quickly. And I say to him, I've still got some questions from when we first met. Can you prove to me where you were living? Were you living in the house in Bristol that you told?
That's the first red flag right then and there. Boom. Bomb drop. Boom, 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 boom. I don't got the sound effect.
That you were living in. And he sends me a document to prove that he was living in this apartment building that, if you're going all the way back in my videos, right, he had said that he was living in an apartment building and that I never got to see the apartment building because he sold it straight away, right? And that was always a bit of a red flag to me. And he said, yes, I did. And he sent me over a document showing like his name attached to that address. He had told me that he lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, right? So I went on like Zoopla or Rightmove or someone.
You lied about that.
British real estate websites, and Googled that address, and it was a 2-bed. So he had said that he owned a 1-bed, and Rightmove said it was a 2-bed. So again, I found him in even more lies. And things just start going downhill even more. So I'm back in Orange County with my husband, and I've obviously found out a ton of lies. And I felt like this completely shifted the dynamic of our marriage. So me finding out about the kids and about the way he treated, the house sitter and just everything basically. And obviously that where he'd lived when we'd met, like he'd basically been living with his parents, so he hadn't been living there. It just felt like the dynamic of our relationship completely changed. One thing that I will say that I haven't covered in most of these videos is that one of the things that I loved about my husband was that he made me feel incredibly special. Like, a lot of people have said that like I was love bombed and all of those things. But at this point in the story, I think we've been together 5.5, 6 years, right? And one of the things that I will always say about my husband is that he made me feel like the most special, beautiful, incredible woman on this planet. And he made a lot of mistakes, but he made me feel like I was one in a million, right? And
gotta get them feelings, y'all. Fellas, them feelings.
I just felt like he worshipped the ground that I walked on, and that he loved me more than I'd ever been loved by anybody else on this planet. And after finding out all of these lies, I felt like all of that disappeared and changed. And he went from worshipping me and loving me to suddenly just making a lot of really like snide comments and treating me in a way that I'd never ever been treated before. And this for me is the absolute downward spiral of our marriage. Keep in mind right now that I'm pregnant. How many months pregnant am I? So my daughter was born in July, and we're talking kind of February time. So yeah, I'm kind of halfway through. I'm 4 or 5 months pregnant. And he just did things like on our wedding anniversary, rather than do anything with me, he went and played golf. He just left me at home all day with my son, didn't do anything. On my birthday of that year, rather than do anything with me, he basically bought tickets, or he'd previously bought tickets to like a candlelit concert where they have loads of candles and they play like classical music, and it was Adele themed. He didn't come with me. I actually ended up going for dinner on my own in Laguna Niguel, in a little place called Angelina's. If you know it, in Laguna Niguel, it's so nice. Yeah, and so he just didn't come with me. I ended up spending my birthday on my own. We'd moved down to Orange County a couple of months before, and I didn't have lots of close friends that I felt that I could ask to come with me. So yeah, I actually spent my birthday on my own. And just like little snide comments about, you know, I had a silly degree. I got a degree in psychology. I've also got a master's in HR, and, you know, I would never be able to run a business. And why isn't dinner ready? Getting, you know, really stroppy about it. And just, you know, what do I contribute to this family? Just like those kind of like low level like dig.
First of all,
Hello, motherfucker.
I think you stole my goddamn dad watches, first of all. Second of all, my dad sent you some money. Third of all, I sent you some money. Talking about some, what the fuck do I contribute? That goddamn, what is that? Shit, what about 70? It's about 50, 60, 70,000 that you done blew?
Basically, just kind of like eating away at my self-esteem. I can only really see this now that I'm like out of it, but I definitely felt like I uncovered like the real him, and he decided that he could now be the real him. Maybe, I don't know. This is just my perception. So yeah, we now get to March. Him and I are not in a good place at all. And yeah, like I said, lots of digs, lots of just like really not nice comments. I would say probably emotionally abusive, to be honest, like on reflection. And I remember going to him at one point and saying like, why are you treating me this way? Like, why? I really don't understand. I really don't understand. You've always worshipped me, made me feel like the most special, beautiful woman in the world. And you know what he said to me? Because I've been with you for like 5-6 years now, and I've realised how much you emotionally abuse me and gaslight me. And I remember I remember leaving and just being in floods of tears, and I called my friend Ellie. I don't actually know if she's watching this, but I called my friend Ellie in LA, and I just remember crying to her and saying like, he's saying that I'm the problem. He's saying that I'm the emotional abuser, that I'm the gaslighter, that I'm doing all of this. And she was like, you know, that's not true, Lacey. Like, you know, that's not true. And this was the start, I think, of like really, really undermining my confidence, making me question myself, making me question like my self-esteem. And you'll now see this like downward spiral of me starting here in this story. Like all this confidence that like I portray right now, he stripped all of that from me because I started to question like, am I the problem? Am I a gaslighter? Am I emotionally abusive? And you'll kind of see that. But anyway, so it's March, and he was at work, and he called me while he was at work, and he was driving along the PCH towards Laguna Beach, and he called me and was like, oh, I'll be home soon. I had him on Find My Friends, and then within about half an hour, I was like, this is so weird, he's not home yet. So I looked on Find My Friends, and his car was at Laguna Beach police station. Or his Find My Friends said that he was at Laguna Beach police station, so
That's my new sound. That's my new sound bite, y'all. I just I just downloaded that just now.
Assumed he'd driven there. And I was like, this is so weird. So I'm like ringing him and ringing him and ringing him. No answer, no answer, no answer. I'm texting him being like, this is so weird. I end up giving my son dinner, putting him to bed. I'm still ringing him. I'm messaging my cousin at the time, Mel. And I'm like, this is so weird. Like, it's saying that he's at the police station. I don't know what's going on. And then I get a call from him. And he's like, hey, I've been arrested. I'm not going to tell you why, but I'm absolutely fine. And I'll see you in the morning. They're keeping me in. And I was like, what's the actual hell? So I like barely slept. I'm pregnant. I'm in America on my own. I'm messaging my cousin in the UK because she's one of the only people still awake. Like, some of this is at like 2, 3 a.m, right? And I'm panicking. Comes home the next day and tells me that he got pulled over for a DUI. They believed that he had been smoking marijuana. They had taken him in, done blood tests, which she would get the results for. And basically, yeah, they'd held him overnight. His story was that the police officer had pulled him out at gunpoint and just like, you know, really, really dramatic, right? And I was obviously absolutely horrified because I'm like, well, I wasn't aware that he smoked marijuana, to be honest. I wasn't, apart from tramadol, I wasn't aware that he took any other drugs or anything. So I was like, what the actual hell? So yeah, we are now waiting for the DUI results and hopefully they'll come in about a week. And then we're driving along about 2 or 3 days later and I see a message come through on his phone, an email come through on his phone, and we both look at it and we both read it. And it's basically from like the US embassy or somebody in US government, and they say, by the way, your visa has been revoked.
Because you got in trouble, huh? Well, I thought they would have had it by now, but I think it take a long time to get the like visa and stuff like that. So damn, my boy done got in trouble. Damn, just from a DUI, you get in trouble like that, you know what I'm saying? Damn.
His visa, which means my visa, has also been revoked, which means that essentially if we leave the
hers
US,
too?
we cannot get back in. So we obviously run a business there. We know that it should be selling, and we know that we're planning to leave not that July, but the July after. So it basically means that we are now officially trapped together in the US until July 2026, and it is March 2025. So yeah, I'm officially trapped in the US with a man that I'm not sure that I want to be with, who is lying to me compulsively and has just started to basically say things to me and undermine my confidence. So I've just explained that my husband had a DUI or was arrested for a DUI, and we've also had our visa revoked in the US. So essentially our visa was revoked, from my understanding, because when you get some kind of like criminal type charge against you in the US government will say, hey, or they said to us, in our case, this is how our solicitor interpreted it, you can stay in the US right now, but if you leave, so if we were to leave and go back to the UK or leave and go to another country, basically we couldn't re-enter. We would have had to have applied for a new visa. So that's why I felt kind of trapped in the US, because I couldn't leave and then return. I couldn't, when I was finding things out, I couldn't leave for a little while like I did before and go back to the UK and then fly back into the US. We had to either stay in the US or leave permanently. We do get the results of my husband's DUI back, and it does say that there's no alcohol or marijuana in his system. So there's that, which is interesting. But I also wanted to cover off, I've got a lot of people saying, you should have just left, you should have just left. When you live in the States with American born, so I have American citizen children, it is not easy to just leave. First off, I mean, I'm in a different country, so I've got to move country. But second off, I have to get approval from my husband in order to take my children out of the country. So when I went back to the UK for that Christmas, when I found out about the second child, my husband wrote a letter basically that said that he would allow me to temporarily take my son out of the US to the UK on the pretext that I would bring him back to the US. So if I'd have wanted to stay in the UK, I would have had to legally file to keep my son there. And while I'm in the US, if I want to take my children back to the UK and my husband doesn't agree to it, I have to legally file something in order to remove them back to the UK and prove, like, you know, why I'm taking them. And basically, if I don't, I could be prosecuted for international kidnapping. So it's not as simple as just upping and leaving. Like, this is why when I say I feel trapped, this is what I'm trying to say. I'm also a housewife. I don't make any money. I do start TikTok around about this time because I meet my friend Ellis, and she's like, this is a great way to start, you know, trying to make a bit of a side hustle. And I was getting quite conscious that like things in my marriage weren't going that well, obviously. Like the ball starts to drop, guys. And I'm like, I need to start like finding my own income, getting back on my feet. I'm still pregnant at this point, you know, but I know that I need to start protecting myself and moving myself forward. But we are living in a house in Laguna Niguel, probably the nicest but also most expensive house that we've lived in the whole time that we've been in the US. And it becomes quite apparent that we just cannot afford that house. It was so expensive. And I don't really know what happened because my husband was dealing with everything, but we got served an eviction notice. And so we decided to move before we got evicted. We found another house in Irvine, but the issue was that we needed to pay a deposit on that house. The deposits in California are around about a month's rent. So you're looking between $4,000 and $6,000 that we needed in a deposit. I had £5,000 left in the UK. Like, it was the last of my money. I am 6 months pregnant. I do not want to be unhoused. I do not want to be evicted. So I send it to my husband, and I'm like, because he's saying it's all the money that we've got, and I'm like, we need to move. Like, I've got a child, I've got a dog, and I'm pregnant. We need to move. Like, I don't want to come home one day and I've been evicted. I don't even know how evictions work in the US. Do you know what I mean? I was pretty scared. So I end up sending him the last of my money. That's all of it gone. And we move into this house in Irvine. At this time, right, my mum basically comes to me and says, I need to make you aware because your husband has said some not very nice things to me. She basically said that she felt that he'd been kind of like picking on her and bullying her a little bit, especially when she came out to America. And the reason that all of this came out was because I was asking her when she was going to come out and meet her granddaughter. And she was like, I want to come out and meet my grandchildren, but your husband treats me really, really badly when I'm there. And I haven't told you, but I need to tell you because I need you to know. And I'm like, I'm heavily pregnant. I've just been served an eviction notice. There's all these lies coming out, like everything's mounting, and I'm feeling super overwhelmed. And I just basically said to my mum, I can't deal with this right now. I cannot have this on my plate. And bear in mind, a lot of my family don't know a lot about what's going on. They don't know our visa's been revoked because I didn't tell anyone because I was embarrassed. Like, there was so much shame around this, so much I didn't tell people. So when a lot of people are like, oh, you made a TikTok that said this. Well, yeah, because that's what I was telling the world. I was like a duck, you know, bobbing along the water, but underneath my legs are like, you know. So I don't tell my family any of this. I basically fall out with my family and I'm like, please just stop. Like, I'm heavily pregnant. All of this is going on. Please just stop for a minute. So I'm now becoming estranged from my family as well. So on top of everything else, I'm now becoming estranged from my family. And I'm trying to stand by my husband. I don't know if I'm just absolutely delulu and it's hormones at this point. I don't know, but I need to spend some time looking back and unpacking some of this because when I look back now, I'm like, Lacey girl, what are you thinking? I know that you guys are sat there thinking that too. But yeah, so I start to see some reviews about my husband's business. Some of them start getting sent to me. I have a couple of clients message me on like Instagram or Facebook or wherever, basically making complaints about certain things in relation to my husband's business. And I'm like, everything is mounting. I have my daughter in the July. I had gestational diabetes. I had a very, very tough pregnancy. I was injecting insulin. Like, just everything is getting on top of me at this point. Like, I can feel my self-esteem just going down and down and down and down. And I have my daughter and I'm aware that there are some disgruntled clients, and one day I am putting my son into the car. So I leave the house, I walk into our driveway, I put my son in the car, then I put my daughter in the car. She's maybe 2 or 3 weeks old at this point. And then I walk back into the house because my husband's like, I want a snack. So I go in and get a snack. I'm not really paying attention, right? And I go and I get in the car and I put the car in reverse and I look in the mirror and there's a guy stood behind my car. And I get out of the car and I'm like, hey, sorry, I need to reverse my car. Like, you're blocking me in. I notice his truck is blocking the driveway. And he's like, you know who I am and I want my money back. You know who I am. Get your husband out here right now. You guys owe me money. And I'm like, I have no idea who you are. And he's like a big guy. He's in a truck. He's like 6 foot something, like hench guy, right? And I'm like, ugh. So I lock my car instantly. My daughter's screaming at this point. My son is like, mummy, who's that? Mummy, who's that? So I try and ring my husband. He doesn't answer because I've shut all of the doors by this point. So I managed to open them quickly, go in and grab my husband. And I'm like, you need to sort this out. I don't know who this guy is, but it's like really intimidating. My husband comes out. They end up having some like heated conversations. I remove the kids from this situation. I put them straight into the pram and I go to the park. My husband then messages me like an hour later and he's like, it's all sorted. And I was like, what was that about? And he was like, oh, it's a disgruntled client. It's a disgruntled client. And I think, to be honest, I just didn't really want to know any more details. I was like, have you sorted it? And have you given him back what he thinks you owe? And he's like, yes. And I was like, okay, show me that you sorted it. And he basically showed me some messages back and forth with this guy where he showed me that he'd sorted the issue out. But I was like, I felt like I was just getting to the point where I was so overwhelmed by my life that I didn't really want to see what was happening, if I'm really honest. And that can make me sound really like complicit, and potentially it does, but I just may as well just be honest. Like, I'm so overwhelmed at this point. So my daughter was a couple of weeks old. For the first 3 months of my daughter's life, she was really, really unwell. We thought she had colic. I gave up wheat, I gave up dairy, I gave up, like, you name it. We did everything, right? And back and forth to the pediatrician every 2 weeks. Super, super stressful. And I'm like, does she have a tongue tie? Does she have a tongue tie? She's teeny tiny. She's not gaining weight. She's screaming, she's awake all night. Like, this is so, so stressful. And then when she's 12 weeks old, I think like maybe 11 weeks old, we learned that she had a horrific tongue tie. Like, all 4 sides were tied. And that's why she wasn't able to feed. I luckily managed to get that sorted. But yeah, so basically I have an unwell child as well. I mean, she's doing great now. She's really, really dinky. She's on like the 9th percentile. But yeah, I just felt like everything was mounting against me. And yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not sure that I really wanted to see what was kind of going on. With my daughter during that time, that kind of like 3 months, I really, really felt like my husband really struggled to bond with her. And I think even to this day, he's kind of struggled to bond with her. And that's not a slight on him. That's not a negative on him. I think he would agree. She's a breastfed baby. She's very like clingy and needy with me. And I think it's partly because she was so unwell when she was little, like she couldn't feed. They basically said that she learned to take just enough milk to like phase off starvation. So she's a very like, she loves to be in her carrier, she loves to be held, she's like a very like Velcro baby. And so my husband, I felt, really struggled to bond with her. I'm just going to go back a little bit, but when my daughter was a week old or 2 weeks old, I had a couple of days when my husband wasn't really talking to me and was being very cold, and I kept saying to him, like, is there an issue, is there a problem? And in my head I was like, it's just because he's not bonding with her. Do you know what I mean? He's struggling to bond with her because she's screaming a lot and she just wants me, blah blah blah. And then we end up having a conversation, and he basically says to me, I'm not sure that I think she's mine. Like, what? He's like, oh, she doesn't look like our son. And I'm like, well, she's a newborn baby. They just look like little scrunched up potatoes and old people, don't they? Do you know what I mean? But I'm like, okay. And he's like, you flew back to England and then found out you were pregnant. The timelines just don't match. And I'm like, right, okay. I'm like 2 weeks postpartum. I'm hormonal as hell, right? So I just instantly just booked a paternity test. I was like, is that what you want? Do you want a paternity test? And he's like, I don't know. I need to know she's mine. So I'm like, well, you do want a paternity test then. So I ordered a paternity test for like very, very quickly, did the paternity test, obviously sent it off, waited a week or however long it takes to come back, and then just handed it to my husband and was like, she's your daughter. So I'm like a few weeks postpartum, and now I've just been accused of like cheating. And he was basically like, I don't trust you. I like just don't trust you. I'm like, I haven't done anything to not be trusted. And he's like, you left and went back to the UK and took our son. And I'm like, yeah, with your permission. I didn't get with anybody else. We were technically separated, I guess, over that month, but I wasn't sleeping with somebody else or dating somebody else. Anyway, so I managed to prove that she was mine. My husband's parents come out when my daughter's maybe 6 weeks old to meet her. And there was one day where we end up having a row about money again. And his parents are out with my son. I'm at home with my daughter and my husband, and he smashed my water bottle, he smashed my car keys, he smashed my phone. Like this argument got really, really heated. He punched a hole in the wall, etc., etc. His parents come home, see my water bottle smashed, see a hole in the wall, see all those things, and just don't say a word. Just don't say a thing. I think his mum at one point said to me, is that your water bottle in the bin? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay. Like, they do not want to see like what's happening here at all. So yeah, I'm newly postpartum. I don't know if he told them that I had to have a paternity test, but I took one anyway. And then this is where things start taking even more of a turn. And my husband basically starts planting that I'm an unfit mother. And that if I leave at any point, he will have my children taken from me and removed from me because I am an unfit mother and I am mentally unwell and I am mentally unstable. So you're just going to watch this now, like spiral. And some of you will be like, well, you do seem a bit delulu. I've been through what I think is quite intense trauma. I probably do need a bit of therapy, probably do need a bit of help, but I'm definitely a lot better now that I feel safe, now that I'm back with my family. I hadn't had a dream in like 3 years until I got back to the UK. I used to shake some days because I felt someone edge and because I felt so like out of control. But yeah, to be consistently told that you are an unfit mother and that if you leave, your children will be taken from you, is not a place that I think many women would comfortably be. So I've mentioned that now things start to really, really spiral, especially in relation to kind of like my personal relationship with my husband. So we had an incident one day where I actually was starting to potty train my son. And I was following like a particular book. I think it might have been called Oh Crap, maybe. But it was one of those books, right? And on it said, have your son like commando, like have him naked. And then whenever he like wheezes or poos or whatever, grab him straight away and put him straight on like a movable potty, so that he learns the connection between obviously peeing and going in a potty. So I'm potty training my son. My daughter is maybe 2 months old, something like that. And as I've mentioned, she isn't very well. So I'm very stressed. My husband is in his office working. And yeah, just in general, I've got lots of stresses in my life and things just aren't great. And we were a few hours into potty training, and I was playing with my son, and he started to pee, and I lifted him and put him straight onto the potty, and he screamed, and he was like, no, like he's a very spirited little boy, my little boy. He's very like headstrong and all of those things. So he starts screaming like, no. And my husband comes out and he's like, why are you treating him like that? Why are you, just basically having a go at me? And the conversation leads to him basically saying that he felt that I was abusing my son. I am obviously absolutely gobsmacked and taken aback. And this, I've mentioned in the previous episodes that he started to basically make a lot of allegations against me, that I was the emotional abuser, that I was the gaslighter, all of those things. But the main theme, to be honest, was just that I was an unfit mother, and that I was mentally unstable, and that I should have my children taken away from me. So I'm obviously gobsmacked that he's making accusations that I'm abusing my child by lifting him onto a potty. And we end up having a massive row about this. I leave the house with both of the kids and we're texting. So a lot of this I've got on text. In the end, he did say, look, I know that you don't abuse our children. I was just angry and I took it out on you and I'm sorry. So I kind of have that receipt, which I'm obviously really, really grateful for. But yeah, we're just kind of spiraling at this point. And my husband starts recording me in the house. He starts recording every conversation that I have with him. It's just taking a really, really dodgy turn. And I remember one day I'm stood in the kitchen and my husband comes in, and we start arguing over something. I can't even remember what it's about. And we start bickering, right? And I'm like, I'm arguing back with him. He's arguing with me. And then the next minute he laughs, stands up on a chair and pulls down a GoPro that he'd set up in the house. I don't know if he'd set it up and then started the argument to like try and film the argument or what. But he made it very, very clear that I was being filmed in my home and on like every recording, just on everything. And he said that he was doing this because I was going to try and take his children, and because he needed to protect himself from me, because I was the emotional abuser and I was the gaslighter. And I was like, right, okay. So things are just like quite heavily spiraling, I'm sure you can imagine. We get to a point where he mentions that he feels that if I do want to go back to the UK, that his mum has to basically have my children 3 days a week, including my daughter, who at this point could be 4 or 5 months old in some of this story, and I'm still breastfeeding her. And he's just adamant that his parents should be co-parenting with me if I go back to the UK. So again, leading to me feeling like quite trapped. So our money situation just continues to get worse and worse. So basically one day he tells me that all of our bank accounts have been shut down, all of his business bank accounts. He's not really sure why, all of his personal bank accounts. And so basically we've got no money until those banks send the money that was in those accounts via check to him so that he can put them in new bank accounts. This is his story. And this is kind of like November time, and we have literally got no money. Like, it's coming towards Christmas and every card is starting to max out. I've still got medical bills for my daughter being born. Like, everything is starting to mount and everything is starting to, yeah, it's getting pretty bad. Like, we're starting to miss car payments. Like, and he keeps saying like, checks are coming, checks are coming, checks are coming, checks are coming. So one day in November, I'm like, right, I need to order some Christmas cards for my family in the UK. So I go onto Moonpig and I start putting it in. And I have a credit card in the UK which I use basically to be able to purchase things if I need them. So I go on, start making some Moonpig cards for my family, put them in the cart, go to order them from my UK credit card. And it gets declined. I'm like, that's so weird. Like, it's empty. There's nothing on it. So I go onto Halifax, that's who it's with, and have a look at the banking app, and it shows that there was a balance transfer for every single penny on that card, and the whole card is empty. So I've just realised that I've gone to order some Christmas cards for my family, gone to put it on my UK credit card, and the card's gotten declined. So I log into the banking app and it shows that there was a balance transfer taken like nearly a month ago. And so all the money off of that card is gone. And I'm like, well, that wasn't me. So I straight away go to my husband and I'm like, hey, what is this? Like, this is so bizarre. Do you know? And he's like, not sure. And I'm like, we need to know pretty quickly because this could be fraud. Like, this could be fraudulent, right? Within a couple of days, and when I'm out, he actually texts me one day and he's like, hey, yes, I think it was me by accident. I think I must have done it through Wise while moving some money around. I'll send you that money.
Stop the cap.
ASAP. So not only now is everything in the US maxed, now I'm starting to see that everything in the UK is maxed. Also, all of our savings is gone. Like, everything is gone. And I felt like his behaviour was also just getting more and more erratic. So I'm actually out one day. I joined a church in Irvine, or in Laguna Hills, I think it's classed as. So not too far from Irvine, where I was living. And I was at a Bible study one day, and I got a text from him basically ending our marriage, just completely out of the blue. So I'm out. My son's in the little preschool that's there, or like the little like children's area that's there, and I'm there with my daughter, and I get a text from my husband basically saying, I don't feel like you want to be in this marriage anymore. I'm actually getting the vibe that you like women, and just ending our marriage. So I'm like struggling to concentrate. I pack the kids up, I get in the car, I drive home, and I say to him, like, you're kidding, right? Like, you're punking me. Like, you're actually ending our marriage right now because you think I like women. And he was like, I'm not happy, you're not happy. Like, this is the end of our marriage. I am freshly postpartum. I am stressed. There's so much going on. I leave the house. I call my cousin and I'm like, I tell her everything that's happening. And she's like, what the actual hell? Within a couple of hours, I go home. My husband's calmed down and he's like, yeah, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to actually end our marriage. I'm just really, really frustrated with lots of things going on in our marriage. And I just felt like I was just living on eggshells. Like, how can you just randomly on a Thursday afternoon just text me and like end our marriage? Like, it was just getting wild, to be honest. So he keeps saying to me, checks are coming, all of the bank accounts have been closed, but I promise you, like, we're days away. So we get towards Christmas and he's like, I'd really, really like us to go away over Christmas as a family because I think it'd be really, really good for us. We need to spend some time together. So we decided, and I was like, well, we don't have any money. And he's like, no, we do. It's literally like summer's come in, which means that I can like book some stuff right now, and then more is coming. Like, I've got all these dates, all this money is coming in right now. Everything's going to be cleared and everything's going to be fine. And I'm like, okay, all right, fine. Like, and our business was, and I know a lot of people are like, you keep having money issues. Our business was very feast or famine. So one minute we would have lots of money because, and you know, there'd be lots of checks coming in, and this is what my husband would be saying. And then the next minute work would maybe dry up. I don't know, but it was very feast or famine. So he's telling me that money is literally imminently coming and he's got some money in and he wants to go away to try and like, you know, get our marriage back on track basically with our family. So I'm like, okay, sounds good. So we rent an RV and we drive to Arizona and Utah and spend 2 weeks kind of doing the national parks and everything there. And initially it's great. Like, we have a wonderful time as a family. It's great. But obviously we're in an RV, me, my husband, my dog, my 2 kids. It's like pretty intense. And after about a week and maybe a little bit more, we end up having a bit of an argument. And again, everything just spirals. My husband said things to me that day, like he didn't want to get engaged to me. I mentioned previously that we got engaged by a waterfall in Santa Ynez. He said he wasn't ready to get engaged to me then, but he felt he had no choice. Like, the comments that he's starting to make are just like getting worse and worse. So not only on our wedding day did you and your family sit there and lie to my face, now you didn't want to get engaged to me. Oh, and when we had kids, you'd already had kids, so it wasn't a first for us together. Like, just all the like happy moments from my life, he's just taken basically and shat all over. So yeah, I'm getting to a point now where I'm like, I don't want to be in this marriage. Like, I don't want to be here. I'm literally here because I've got kids with you. And in my head, I was like, I knew that we were leaving in July and I was like, I just need to survive till July. I just need to survive till July. Once I'm back in the UK, I can figure this out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can get away. And I even said to him when we were in Utah, if you speak to me and treat me like this when we're in England, I'll be gone. like, speak to me like this in Bristol and I'll be back in Devon with my family. Like, you know, no, like, I felt in America like I had nowhere really to go. But in the UK, I've got my friends and family. Like, no way am I putting up with this, was kind of what I was saying to him. So yeah, lots of like horrible comments, lots of like diggy things, and basically still saying, you know, that if I go back to the UK at any point, he wants me to co-parent with his parents. We get back to Irvine, and we actually end up cutting the trip a little bit short because we actually didn't have like the best time together. And we get back, and I get a few emails on my phone saying that I've got credit alerts on there and that somebody has tried to get some credit in my name. I was like, that's weird. Go and speak to my husband. He's like, yeah, I really, really want a new truck. But because he'd had trucks repossessed, he was like, I need to put it in your name. And I was like, all right, okay, why are we doing that? For a bit of context, my car in the October before, so we're now in January, had a light had come up to say that I had issues with the brakes on my car. And I'd been saying to him, please, can we get my brakes fixed? Like, I don't feel safe, I don't feel safe, I don't feel safe. And he said to me, if I can get a new truck, then we can look at sorting your car. And I was like, okay then, just put a truck in my name. So we went and we got a truck and put it in my name. This continues, like this weird dynamic of our relationship continues. And one day in January, towards the end of January this year, it just got to a place where it was really, really heightened. And I said to him, I feel really trapped. I feel like I've got absolutely nowhere to go, like nowhere to go. You have taken all my money in the US, taken all my money in the UK, maxed out all my cards, so I can't afford to go and do anything. My car has got a brake light come on and you've never gotten me the new car that you promised. So I can't even drive that far to see people. All of my friends and family are away from me. There's lies coming out. The business isn't doing well. Like, I'm just totally overwhelmed. I said to him, I feel completely trapped and I'm going to leave right now because I actually don't even see like how I'm ever going to get out of this situation. And I just walked out of the house, and he straight away called the police. And they had a discussion with my family and with him about if they found me, whether they would need to like arrest and section me, basically. I had 4% phone battery, so when I walked out of the house, I had no idea what was going on. 2.5 hours later, I returned to the house. Can I just say, I left him with his two children for 2.5 hours. On reflection, he just had to parent for 2.5 hours. But at the time, I obviously saw it as an issue. So I get to the house and the police are there and they're like, hey, we really, really want to speak to you. They were like, we feel that you are in quite an abusive situation. There's definitely some financial controls, some emotional abuse here, and we just want to speak to you. So I speak to the police officer and we kind of get everything out. I'm obviously worried that they're going to take my kids. And he's like, we're absolutely not going to take your kids. Like, really, really sympathetic with me, right? And we have this conversation. It's really, really good. And at the end of the conversation, the police officer says to me, are you aware that your husband's being investigated? He's like, are you aware that your husband's being investigated? I was like, what for? And he's like, I can't tell you. And I was like, can you give me any information? And he went, I'm just asking you, are you aware that your husband's being investigated? So I very, very quickly like got him to leave, wandered around the house, found some mail, opened it up, and inside was a warrant out for my husband's arrest. So I straight away took pictures of it. I was actually on the phone to my mum, sent it to my mum, sent it to my cousin. I keep mentioning my cousin, by the way. She's more of like a sister to me, which is why she's involved so much in this story. Yeah, so I sent it to my mum, I sent it to my cousin, and I also sent a copy of it to my husband being like, are you aware of this, right? The warrant, even to this day, I'm still not fully sure of why there is a warrant out for my husband's arrest. It mentioned white collar stuff. I'm not going to give too much away, but it mentioned white collar fraud type stuff, right? And honestly, I was just absolutely petrified. Anybody who knows what's going on in the US right now in relation to ICE would know that in my head I was like, oh my gosh, does this mean that rather than his visa just being revoked, that he actually doesn't have a visa now? Could ICE come and pick me up and separate me from my American-born children? Like, my head's spiraling, right? So I send it to my husband and I'm like, we need to talk about this. So he comes home within an hour or two, comes home, and obviously reads the warrant, and he's like, I didn't know that I had this. He's like, I assumed it's because I've missed court. I assume that I should have known to have gone to court, and I didn't, because I didn't know that I should have gone. So I'm going to call
Stop the cap.
This was a Friday night, so he was like, I'm going to call them on Monday. obviously like both of our heads are spiraling because we're like, oh my God, like what does this mean? Like, could ICE come and get us? Could the police knock on the door right now? Like, what's going to happen, right? About a little while after that, my husband's like, I think I need to leave. And I'm like, okay, where are you going? And he's like, he wasn't sure if he was going to go to another state, like maybe Arizona or somewhere, because the states don't always talk to each other, was our understanding. So maybe the warrant was just out for his arrest in California, and maybe he could go to Arizona or another state and he'd be okay. Or he was considering driving into Mexico. And he basically was like going through the house, trying to find everything, and he couldn't find his passport. He was like, I cannot anywhere find his passport. We found my passport, found the kids' passports, and we realised that when we had rented the RV, he must have left his passport in the RV, or lost it somewhere around then. So yeah, he's like getting pretty worried, and he's like, I need to leave. And I'm like, okay, well, if you leave, I will stay here in Orange County and I will try and get me, the kids and our dog out. And I said to him, like, I need to make sure that you can give me money for food and petrol and all of those things, because, you know, I don't know how long I'm going to be here. Then I've got to try and fly the dog out. That's expensive. I've got to try and fly the kids out. Anyway, so about an hour and a half later, I'm feeding our daughter in our bedroom, and he comes into the room and he's like, I want you to come with me. And I'm like, what? He's like, I think that you and the kids and the dog should all come into Mexico with me. I was like, oh, don't be so ridiculous. Why? And he's like, it's the only way that I can make sure that I can give you money, that I can keep you safe, that I can help you get out of the country, that I can do all of those things for you. And I was like, I don't know about this. So he leaves the room. I carry on feeding my daughter, and I'm sat there and I'm thinking, if he goes into Mexico or wherever he goes and he cuts off all money, I've got no money here. I've got a car with no brakes or with funny brakes. You know, I have got family in the UK, but how are they going to get that money to me? Or my UK credit card's maxed. That was always like my fallback, was my Halifax credit card. I was like, I've got no money. Like, what if ICE come and knock on the door? Like, I'm starting to spiral. I'm starting to worry. And you've got to remember as well, I've been under a lot of pressure, and I've been told that I'm not mentally well. I've been told that my children are going to be taken away from me. All of that was still continuing before this moment. And yeah, I'm getting pretty nervous. And so I go and I speak to him, and I'm like, right, okay, if we're leaving, like, what do we do? What's the plan? And he's like, right, the plan is that we leave, we pack up our stuff, we just take as much as we can in the new truck, we leave your car, we leave the house, we leave pretty much everything. But he did say that potentially he could get someone to come into the house and kind of pick up any other bits that we left, you know, and ship anything else back to us in the UK, and that he had a friend who was going to help him sell everything from the house, so I didn't need to worry about that. So I was like, okay. So we spent the next 24 hours packing up as much as we could. I actually packed, I think, like 4 suitcases of mine, 1 each for the kids, a couple of private things, but I had to leave like my pram. I left my wedding dress, which I wanted to keep for my daughter to try on. Like, I left a lot of stuff, right? And within 24 hours of finding that warrant, keep in mind that I did not tell my family, because I knew that they would be like, do not go to Mexico with that man. Do not go to Mexico with that man, Lacey. I had packed up my house, or I packed up some of my things. You should have seen the state of the house, horrific. But I packed up some of my things, so like 3 suitcases of things, which is interesting because I went to America with like 3 suitcases, and I'm leaving America with 3 suitcases. So I packed up 3 suitcases, I put my kids in the car, I put my dog in the car, and within 24 hours, we had crossed the border into Tijuana. So we get into Tijuana. I don't know if anybody's ever been, but the reason that we chose Mexico, or he chose Mexico, was because you can drive the border and they don't always check your passport. And because he didn't have a passport, like, because my preference was that we went into Canada because it obviously felt safer. But yeah, he couldn't do that. So we drove the border, we get into Mexico, we stay in Tijuana, and then we start driving down to Mexico City. With kids, because we needed to stop regularly, obviously, is around about a 5-day drive. Just have a look on the maps from Tijuana down to Mexico City. It's a very, very, very long drive. Parts of it were absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning. We obviously had amazing food. We're driving along, but also it's pretty scary, I'm not gonna lie. There were points, especially around like Sinaloa and places like that, where we're Googling like, where do we stay? And Google Maps is like, ChatGPT is like, well, nowhere around here. You know, you're driving along and there's, you know, the armed police with AK-47s. There's also a lot of people that stop you, and you don't know if they're police or not police. Like, are they pretend police? They ask for money. Like, it was definitely an interesting drive. But to be honest with you, like, the minute that we crossed that border, I don't know whether it was like Bonnie and Clyde vibes or what, but we became like a team again. And this is where, like, when I look back, I'm like, am I under coercive control? Am I just mentally unstable? Like, I don't know, but it gave like Bonnie and Clyde vibes. And he was saying to me, I still love you. I still want to be with you. This isn't the end for us. And he was like sending me properties that he'd seen online on like Rightmove, that he wanted us to live in, like rentals together in Bristol. And he was sending them to me being like, wouldn't this be lovely with the kids and blah, blah, blah. And in my head, I'm like, there's potential. He's going to change. It's all going to be okay. You can keep your family together. Now you can see why I said I was slightly delulu. Anyway, so we carry on driving down to Mexico City. It takes around about 5 days. And we get to Mexico City. I'm obviously in touch with my parents. My husband had put or in touch with my mum. My husband had put I was actually with Mint, so a Minternational, so an international phone plan on my phone so that I could speak to my family and just stay in touch with them. Obviously my family are very, very worried, but I'm like, it's okay, we're gonna make our marriage work. I know, guys, I hate me too. So we get to Mexico City. The first couple of days are fine, you know, or like I'm still walking on eggshells, but I'm like, there's hope, guys. And then one day, so we'd been staying in this Airbnb in Mexico City and we needed to move to a different one. And what I will say is we kept moving, even in Mexico City, and we were there for a little while. We kept moving. We kept moving from here to here to here to back to here to here. I don't really know why that was. My husband said it was due to money or whatever. Yeah, we just kept moving. So we are moving apartments and we end up going to one of those giant Mexican markets where they've got like all the food, all the toys, all the clothes, like everything. They're just huge. And we go there and we sit down to have some food and my little boy is like, Mummy, I'm thirsty. So they didn't have any water for sale, so we got a Fanta and he had a little bit of that, and then our food comes and he's like, I want more Fanta. We don't normally give him like soda or anything, but on this trip he pretty much ate like French fries and chocolate. Like, do you know what I mean? That's just what you end up doing when you're surviving, right? So my husband's like, no, you need to eat something before you have more soda. He's like, I'm thirsty. And I said to my husband, look, if he's saying he's thirsty, we have to honour that. Like, if he's saying that his body is thirsty, like, we need to listen to him. Like, we can't tell him he's not thirsty. And my husband's like, I didn't tell him he's not thirsty. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying that. And he's like, well, I didn't say it. Don't put words in my mouth and, like, stop being a liar. And I just saw red. I was like, what do you mean I'm a liar? And he's like, well, you're lying. You're saying I've said something I haven't said. And I just got up, grabbed my daughter and just walked off because I just could feel, like, my blood boiling. Like, how dare you call me a liar? Like, my whole life has been turned upside down because you continually lie, but I'm a liar. So I go and call off for like 15 minutes. I come back and I say to him, like, really calmly, do not call me a liar. Like, it's the most triggering thing for me. Do not call me a liar. It's so rude. Like, do not call me a liar. And he was like, I'll call a liar when I see a liar. Like, you lied, so I called you a liar. Don't lie then. Ugh, I can feel myself like getting angrier and angrier and angrier. Anyway, we return to the apartment. We're not really speaking. So we get to the new apartment. I just take my daughter straight into the back bedroom. He's with my son. And I text him saying, look, we're going to go home in a couple of days, right? Let's just make the most of being in Mexico City. It's a city we've always wanted to go to. Tomorrow, let's just get a rooftop bus, see the sights. Hopefully in a day or two, we can leave. He's like, I'm not going on a rooftop bus with you. I'm not going anywhere with you, like, carrying on the argument. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll maybe just take the kids, whatever. I was like, because, you know, when we leave and go home, then, you know, hopefully you can book us a flight in the next few days. And he was like, well, I'm not going to be booking you a flight. I'm like, what? He's like, it's not my responsibility to make sure that you can go home. If you want to go home, it's your responsibility to pay for you. Oh, and by the way, you can't take the kids. And I'm like, what? What do you mean I can't take the kids? So he took the children's passports, just took them straight out of my bag, basically said that if I took the kids, he would, like, prosecute me for international kidnapping. Oh, and it's no longer his responsibility to pay for me to leave, even though I'm a housewife with no money and he's maxed all of my cards. So my family, my mum specifically, my mum who said that he bullies her and all those things, yeah, she now has to pay for me. So I say, like, not being funny, no, like, why, like, my family don't have the money to pay for this. You said that you would pay for it. Like, and he was like, your family don't pay for anything. And I was like, my dad gave me inheritance, which you've now taken and spent, so I think they have. He then discloses to me that he borrowed $60,000 from his parents that I knew nothing about. Oh my God! So I text his parents basically saying, hey, I'm not very happy about this. Like, you lied to me about the kids, now you're lending him money and I know nothing about it. Do I not have a right to know what's going on in my own marriage? No response. A day goes by and I'm like, guys, I am not allowed to leave Mexico. I have no money to leave. He's taken the children's passports. No response from his parents. So he goes out one day and I call them. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? His mum typically is just so hostile. I had gone through my husband's things and I had found more bottles of tramadol. So I sent them a picture of the warrant out for his arrest. I sent them pictures of the bottles of tramadol. Do you know what his mum said? Why do we need to know all that? Because your son's in trouble with the police and might have a drug addiction? Like, I was just baffled. Like, every time I think that people can't stoop to a new low, they just drop on down. So I was just like, right, okay, so we're on the phone. And they're like, we are trying to help you to leave. We are trying to help secure some money to your husband so that he can help you to leave, like, to my husband. And I'm like, right, okay. At the end of the call, I said, guys, can I just ask, like, what have I done wrong to be treated like this? Can you give me a single example of something that I've done wrong to be treated like this? And my husband's dad said, nothing, Lacey. Absolutely nothing at all. So I've just gotten off the phone with my husband's parents. They've said that they're going to help me to leave Mexico and that I've done absolutely nothing wrong, right? So this continues for another day or so. I continue to text his parents being like, any update? Any update? And I literally get crickets. Like, I'm getting nothing back from them. So I text my husband's sister because that's the only other person who I'm aware. And she's a very, very strong personality. I will say that about her. And I felt like she might sympathise with my situation, as her and my husband don't have the best relationship. I thought that maybe she could speak to her parents and just kind of explain like what was going on. So I messaged her. I've never in 7 years really messaged her. She must have known that I must have been pretty desperate to send this message. So I message her and say, hey, like, your family aren't coming back to me. I am being, I'm being held here in Mexico. I cannot leave because I have no money. I also don't have my children's passports, and your husband's saying that if I take the children, he'll prosecute me for international kidnapping. So what can I do? Like, can you help me? She messages back and says, hey, I'm going to speak to everyone and then I'll come back to you. And then about an hour or so later, texts me and says, it's not my responsibility to help you. I was like, it's not your responsibility to help me. So I just didn't even respond. I just blocked her straight away. I was like, there's just absolutely no point in having this conversation. So it continues. I'm now completely cut off from his family whatsoever. They are not interested in helping me or my kids leave at all. Things just start to get even worse in relation to the things that my husband is saying. He starts to say that I have no relationship with my son. Keep in mind that I'm trying to stay out of his way. So a lot of the time I'm taking my daughter, who I'm breastfeeding, and going into like the back bedroom or just trying to stay out of my husband's way. And so he's now trying to make out that I have no relationship with my son. He's saying that he doesn't like the way I treat my son, that I'm not mentally well, that he's going to have my children taken off of me, that if I raise this with anyone, that they will do a psychological evaluation and take my children. That is like the constant narrative now for like the next 2 weeks, is that constant narrative that I'm not well and he's going to have my children taken off of me. My family are panicking. My family are in touch with the embassy and in Mexico City, and the embassy actually reach out to me. They ask if he has been physical and I'm like, no. And they basically say, then we can't really help you. Oh, and by the way, if you leave, your husband could prosecute you for international kidnapping. So I'm like, great, I'm just stuck. But they do give me a contact on WhatsApp. So I'm like WhatsApping this girl basically, and she checks in with me just to make sure that like everything's okay. And one day we're actually moving apartments again. Like I said, my husband just kept moving apartments. And she says to me, he says to me, sorry, the embassy are coming here today. And I actually have a recording of him saying this. And I'm like, okay. So basically he had been recording me and I started basically trying to record him back because I was getting worried. I wasn't filming him, but if I knew that we were having an argument, I would start recording certain things because I felt like I needed evidence since he'd clearly been like building a case against me. So I recorded him basically saying that the embassy were going to travel to our apartment today. They were going to do a psychological evaluation on me because I was clearly mentally unstable, and that they were going to take my children. So I send that voice recording to the embassy, the contact I've got on WhatsApp, and I say to her, hey, my husband is saying that you're coming here today and that you're going to take my children and section me. Is that happening? And she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I'm like, it's just lies on top of lies on top of lies. I'm getting nothing from his parents. And yeah, I'm starting to panic. At one point he says to me, so basically when we left the US, I had picked up some watches that he had. He had a couple of Rolexes and also an AP watch. He had said that he had gotten these watches through a client. So basically somebody had wanted some work done, and rather than pay him, they had decided to pay him in watches, and he got paid in 2 watches. So they had one house where they had some work done, then another house where they had some work done, and he had paid them in watches. I had picked up those watches before we left. I actually picked them up the minute that I saw the warrant, because I was like, I might need these if you like flee the country, and obviously I'm left here with the kids and I can sell them to get the kids out. He asks me for one of the watches because he wants to go and sell it. He also asks me for my engagement ring because he wants to go and sell it, and tells me that marrying me was the biggest mistake of his life, which is really charming. So I give him both. I say to him, I'm not really comfortable you selling my engagement ring, but you did buy it, so fine. So I hand him both of those, and he leaves the house, and he basically comes back and says that he decided not to sell them. I don't really know if he did plan to sell them, if it was all just like an intimidation tactic. I really don't know, but he comes back and he hasn't sold them. So yeah, the conversations are just getting worse and worse and worse. It's the continual pattern is I'm going to have my children taken from me, and that I'm not mentally well. So this lasts for around about 2 weeks. I am getting like more and more worried, and he basically cuts off all money. I have 0 money. Like, I don't have any money to buy myself food or water. My international phone plans run out, and he says that he can't afford to renew it. So when I leave the house with my kids, I have no internet. I'm obviously trying to keep some kind of normality for my kids. So like one day I went to the zoo in Mexico, which is in like Chapa something park it's called. So I went there with my son, like looked at all the animals. I'm like calling and voice noting my family where I can on their Wi-Fi. But in general, you know, I'm trying to keep a normal life for my kids, like a duck on top with its little feet running underneath, thinking I have no idea when we're going to leave, because you told me if I leave, that you'll prosecute me if I take the kids. You've got the kids' passports, so I can't take them anyway, and you've told me that you're not going to pay for me to leave, basically. So we end up getting to a point where I call one of my really good guy friends. I'm not going to give his name, but I call him. He is a banker in London, and he's been one of my best friends since I was 18 years old. And I call him. He has been one of the people that's really supported me throughout, like basically since I found out about the second child. He has been such a really like good support to me. And I called him and I was like, I hate having to ask this, but could you send me some money? Because I'm scared that he could like leave me in Mexico City. Like, I have no idea what's going on. And my guy friend instantly sent me £1,000. He also sent me 2 credit cards, one Amex and one personal credit card, and said if at any point you need to book a flight, you book a flight on this card immediately, and just don't even think about the money, just do it. Like, I will just want to know you're safe. So like, I'm not going to say his name, but like, shout out to him for just being such a good friend, because I don't have a rich family. I didn't feel like asking my family for money when I don't come from a wealthy family is just not something I wanted to do. And like, my mum wouldn't be able to just send me £1,000, you know what I mean? She doesn't just have that. So him doing that for me was a huge thing. A lot of people will say, well, why didn't you just book the flight then? Well, I didn't have my kids' passports, for one, but also two, as I'm traveling through Mexico, I've got friends who I'm telling what's happening to in America, people like Ellis, who's on here, who are messaging me, showing me more debts in my name, more debts in my husband's name, more legal stuff going on in the US. They're finding out all of this online, right? And what I don't want to do, because I know I've got a lot of debt in my name, is book a flight, because the flight's direct. I was looking at another £3,000, £4,000 for me and 2 kids. Had the dog on, you're looking at 5, 6, 7 grand. I was like, I don't want more of that debt in the UK in my name, but I've already got all of these mounting debts. So I was trying to get him to pay, but also I didn't have the passports or anything to just leave. In the end, my husband says, right, okay, we are going to book a flight. I've booked a flight and we are going to leave in like 2 days time. So you need to sort suitcases, you need to sort everything out. We're going to fly out, me, him, the kids, the dog, and we're going to fly into Paris. So my husband has just told me that he is going to book a flight for me, him, the dog, and the 2 kids to Paris. He says that this is cheaper. He says that this is the easiest way to get our dog Cleo into the UK. And to be honest, I just don't care. It's so much closer to the UK than Mexico. Sign me up. So I'm more than happy to go with him. Before we leave, he does basically say to me, he was actually texting me, and he said that when we land in the UK, he wants the kids 3 days a week, mainly our son. Our daughter he's a bit more flexible with because she's breastfeeding, but he wants my son 3 nights a week. He wants shared custody, and he basically wants me to sign something before he allows me to leave Mexico. And I was like, I'm absolutely not signing anything. I haven't had any legal advice, and I'm under a lot of stress and duress right now. Like, it's never going to stand up in court anyway. And he was adamant that no, I had to sign something, I had to agree to it, and he wanted my mum to basically countersign and agree to it so that he could prove that I wasn't under duress. Initially I'm like, no, and then in the end I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I've got no choice but to agree to this because I want to leave, and I feel like I'm just being like, not held hostage because that sounds really dramatic, but like held here, like let me leave. There are also points, and like now when I look back I'm a bit like embarrassed, and I don't know if we go to court maybe it'll get released, but like I know that he has, because he was recording me and videoing me a lot more when we were in Mexico than he'd ever done in Orange County. And I know, like, I have texts because I've read back through them, but I also know that he has a recording of me, basically me begging him, like crying and begging him to allow me to leave. And now when I look back, I'm like, oh, like the level like I must have stooped to is just horrific. Like, I'm kind of embarrassed, but I like just wanted to leave. I just wanted to get to my family, get to safety, just get out of this situation. Like, I was just so flipping overwhelmed. So he books the flight to Paris. We get our dog on the flight. Our dog gets on the flight. She is in the hold, but she seems really, really happy. Like, when we say bye to her, she seems as happy as she can be in her crate, and she seems really, really good. We start going through the airport. My husband's being great. He's back to being the husband I always knew. He books us into a lounge. He orders me a margarita. We have loads of food. There's showers there. He's the doting dad holding my daughter. Like, everything's great. We get on the flight, the exact same. I don't sleep the whole flight because I've got my daughter on me, and I was really, really worried that if I like fell asleep, she could like slide off. So I didn't sleep at all. My husband and my son do sleep for most of the flight. It's around about an 11-hour flight, Mexico City to Paris. Yeah, so when we get to the other side, I'm exhausted, but my husband's great. Things are good. Like, although I don't want to be with him, like, I'm pretty, like, we're not going to be together. I've made that decision. I've texted my family. I've told them that we're not going to be together. But he's being nice. And my head's like, is there still potential? Is there still potential? Anyway, so we exit the airport. We go and sit down, and he says that he's going to try and rent a vehicle from Paris to the UK, which he can then hopefully leave in the UK. So he goes into the car rental office, and they say to him, we don't have any rental vehicles because we need a big rental vehicle as well. We need like a minivan, basically, because we also got the dog, the kids, like around about 8 suitcases, 3 of mine, 3 of his, 1 each for the kids, some stuff for the dog. He's got his golf sticks. We've got a pram. We've got like a travel pram. We've got loads of stuff, right? So they basically say, no, we don't have any vehicles that you can take from Paris and then leave in the UK. But what we could potentially do is get you to sign up for a vehicle from Paris to the UK that you bring back to Paris. So my husband comes and sits down with me, and he's like, hey, I need you to lease the vehicle from Paris to the UK. And I'm like, what? Why would I do that? Like, you do it. And he's like, no. He's like, you do it, or I'm going to leave you here in Paris without your kids. I haven't slept in over 24 hours. I am exhausted. I am in tears, and everything turns again straight back to being horrible. He, at one point, because I was like, no, I am not doing this. Like, I'm absolutely not doing this, because you've already done this with the truck. We've left my truck. So we drove into Mexico City in the truck that's in my name. We've now left that truck in Mexico City. So that's what, 30 grand worth of debt that's going to sit on my name because you drove a truck. To evade your warrant, you drove into Mexico, and now you've left that vehicle in Mexico by the airport in Mexico City, right? So I'm like, no, I'm absolutely not doing it. And it gets really, really heated. And he's like, this is the one thing I've asked you to do. I sorted out the flights. I sorted out the dog. I've done everything else. You're so lazy. You never contribute anything. Blah, 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 blah. And at one point he passes me my daughter because I'm still refusing. And he goes, go to your vile, disgusting sea of a mother. And like in front of my kids, and hands my kids to me like that. He tells me that since I've had kids, my body is disgusting, that I'm unattractive, like you name it. Like the digs are just getting lower and lower and lower. It's like horrible. So I'm in floods of tears. I haven't slept. We go into the car rental office. I'm like, fine, I'll just do it. And I have a split desk session. So basically he's still having a go at me. I'm in floods of tears. The poor car rental guy is looking at me like, blink twice if you need help. He's like, what the hell is the situation, right? I have a split second decision to make. Basically, on the form that I'm filling out to get the car rental in my name, I write help in one of the boxes. And the reason that I do this is because I wanted that when he didn't return the vehicle back to Paris, which like I just knew he wasn't going to do, I had something to show that I'd done it under duress, like an email trail. So I write it and the guy looks at me and I'm like, it's fine, just ignore that, thinking that he will and just like process it and then give us the keys. And he hands me the keys and I think, phew, let's go get in that vehicle, let's drive to Calais, let's get back to the UK, let me get away. So we go, get all of our bags, we get into the vehicle in Calais, and we get into the vehicle in Paris, get ready to go to Calais, and the French police turn up. I'm like, oh no. Obviously my husband has no idea why they're there, and I'm thinking, shit. Like, I didn't want the police called. I was literally trying to get a trail, basically, to show that I was purchasing all of these things and racking up debts under duress. So the police want to speak to me and I'm like, okay, fine. They take my husband off. I basically say to them, I do not want to talk to you. I do not want to say a single thing. I'm so sorry about what I did. I did it because I was under duress. I know that, like, basically there's nothing for you to investigate here. Please just let us go. They are so nice, but they say, we're really sorry, we can't. You need to come with us. So they pack up my dog, my kids, all of the bags, put it all into the police minivan, and we start driving over to the police station, which is right by Paris airport. So we go in there, and I basically say the same thing. I'm not telling you anything. I'm not telling you a single thing because I'm this close to home. I am this close to the UK. Like, please just let us go. And they're like, we cannot help you if you do not talk to us. And I'm like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm sorry. So they finally say, right, are you happy if we drop you back with your husband? Because he's downstairs. They also questioned him as well. They're like, are you happy if we drop you down to, like, back to the car rental place? So they drop us back to the car rental place. They were honestly so nice, the French police, so friendly, and also very, very good looking, I will say. So if you ever have an option to steal a croissant, just go for it, ladies. But yeah, so we're back at the Paris airport, and we need to rent a vehicle. And my husband says to me, right, you need to now, like, basically get another vehicle because that one's been taken back. So I go back in, I get another vehicle. I come back out and he's just so angry with me. And I'm like, well, this isn't, because he didn't know that I'd written help on the form. So I was like, it's not my fault. And why are you so angry with me? And he was like, it's your fault for making a scene. You were crying. This is all your fault. So we get in the vehicle and we start driving to Calais. And he tells me that they had put him in handcuffs and they treated him like a criminal and blah, blah, blah. So we get to Calais. And we try and book a ferry and try and get on the ferry with our dog. And the ferry people are like, you do not have the right paperwork. You need to tomorrow go to a vet here in Calais. Make sure you've got all the paperwork for your dog and then you can get onto a ferry. So we book into a hotel. The next day we go and find a vet. We get all of the paperwork for Cleo. Cleo's sorted. We decide to take our son to a park to let him have a little run around. And my husband's whole story changes. He tells me that actually, no, he basically tells me that no, they did put him in handcuffs, but that was only, like, initially. Then they very, very quickly changed their whole demeanour once he'd shown them videos of me and told them all about me. And they agreed with him that I was mentally unstable and that I should have my children taken off of me. So then he was no longer treated like a criminal. He was treated like he was the victim, basically. And I'm sat there thinking, like, is this true? Is this not true? And he's just continuing with that same narrative of, you're not well, you're not mentally stable, and I can take your children anytime that I want to. So we get back in the vehicle and we start driving towards the ferry, and I'm like, we are going home, right? We get to border control to board onto the ferry, and border control, the man at border control is like, you've got a bit of a weird story getting here, and your husband's on a temporary passport. I want you to go over to the border control office because we just want to have a bit of a chat with you because this is just a little bit strange. So my husband's like, ugh, not like another stop. So we drive over to border control, and my husband basically gets out of the car. He goes into the border control office. I'm sat in the car, and after about 20 minutes, I'm like, where the hell is he? Like, what is he doing? And then I see this woman in a border control uniform coming towards me. She knocks on the window and she's like, hey, I really, really need to speak to you. Can you step out of the vehicle with you and your kids? And I just burst into tears. I was like, you're going to take my children? He's told you I'm not well. I'm fine. You can't take my children. And she's like, whoa, lady. I don't know what you're talking about. I just want to talk to you. Like, I promise you. So she goes and gets another woman from inside. So there's now 2 women, and they're like, are you okay? Like, are you all right? And I was like, I'm like, you should keep in mind right now what I look like. So I have traveled for we've been traveling for like 2 days now. I had dreadlocks in the back of my hair. I hadn't brushed my hair, hadn't brushed my teeth. I had no makeup on. I hadn't showered. I had the same clothes on from the flight. I look horrific. I'm like, literally, they must have been like, who is this homeless lady with that family? Like, I looked so bad, guys. And all of that plus the crying must have been such a red flag to them. So they brought me into the office. They separated me from my husband. They put me in the family room with my daughter, and they were like, we just want to know everything. Like, how can we help you? And I was like, I don't want to tell you anything because I'm this close to home. And they were like, if you don't tell us anything, then we can't help you. And so I just told them everything. I told them, like, just everything from the beginning, pretty much this story from the beginning to now. And I said to them, when we had stopped at the park, my husband had said to me, we are going to drive from Dover to Devon, but on the way we're going to stop in Bristol. And I was like, right, okay, why are we stopping in Bristol? He's like, well, I just want the kids to see my family. And I was like, well, I don't want to see your family because they completely cut me off. So I don't really want to see them. And he was like, well, if you don't want to see them, you can stop at the bottom. You can just wait at the bottom of the M32, but we're stopping to see my family. And in my head, all of this is built up. And I was like, he's going to take my children. He's going to use his parents to take my children. Like, I was like panicking. So I tell them everything. And the border control was so nice, so helpful. And they were like, we have 2 options for you. We can separate you now here in Calais from your husband. We can separate you in Dover from your husband, or we cannot separate you at all. So I am with Border Patrol in Calais, and they have just told me that if I want to, that they can separate me from my husband. So they give me 2 options. The first option is that they separate me and my kids from my husband here in Calais, and then we have to go on as foot passengers on the ferry to Dover. But that does mean that we cannot take my dog, because dogs cannot go on as a foot passenger. The second option is that all of us, me, my husband, the kids, the dog, get back into the vehicle, get onto the ferry, get over to Dover, and then the Dover and Kent police will separate us. I have come all of this way with my dog. My dog was my first baby. I love her so much. I'm this close to getting her to the UK and getting her to safety as well. There is no damn way on this earth that I'm leaving my dog in Calais, and just no way. So I agree that I will be separated from him at Dover by the Kent police. I call my family from the phone in the room with Border Patrol. Like, my mum is in floods of tears. She's like, I think it's just the relief that, like, I'm this close to home, you know? Like, all of my family, my cousin, my brothers, my stepmom, my mum, my grandma, they have been petrified for me. Like, they don't even know the extent of everything, and they've just been petrified for the last 2 weeks. Like, you know, am I going to make it home? Like, it's been the most horrific journey that I can imagine. So yeah, I call my mum and I'm like, call my brother, my older brother. I want, please, can both of you, because I've got all this baggage, please drive to Dover. It's like a 5-hour drive from Devon. Please drive to Dover and collect me. I'm going to be there in like 5 hours. So they're like, you cannot tell your husband that you're going to be separated. You're going to have to lie. You're going to have to pretend. And I feel sick. I feel literally sick at having to lie to him. Like, to know that I know something this big that he doesn't absolutely sickens me. And now when I look back at that feeling, at how sick I felt at lying to him, it makes me wonder how he did it to me every single day. Like, it's just baffling, because I felt physically sick. So I leave the room, I know what I'm doing, and I walk out, and he's kind of sat in like a waiting area with some of the other border control agents. So I go out, and he's like, do you know why we're here? Do you know why we're here? And I was like, no, I think it's just to do with your passport and Cleo and just everything else. He's like, yeah, me too. So we're chatting, and he's like, hopefully we'll get on the ferry soon. And then he turns to me and he says, just don't forget that if I can, or like if I need to, that I will take your children from you. Like, don't make this go legal. Don't make this difficult, because if I need to, I have enough evidence to take your children from you. So I'm sat there listening to this, and I watch one of the Border Patrol agents just like shift a little bit. So my husband gets up and he goes to the bathroom, and a Border Patrol agent comes over to me, and he's like, I've just heard everything that your husband has just said to you, and I'm going to make a statement on your behalf. And I think, like, at this point, and it makes me quite emotional, like, I'm starting to realise that, like, this isn't normal. To be told this isn't normal. To be And to have all these people like the border patrol agents and like the French police and now this guy say to me like, you don't deserve to be treated like that. You don't deserve to be spoken to like that. I think like the penny's starting to drop, and that sounds so wild to other people, but like, I don't deserve to be spoken to like that. I don't deserve to have my children threatened to be taken away from me. Like, I don't deserve any of this. And like, I know then that I've made the right decision to be separated in Dover. So my husband comes back from the bathroom, we sit and wait, they get us onto the next ferry because we'd missed the ferry that we'd booked. We get onto the ferry and my husband's back to being wonderful him again. Would you like, they've got British chocolate here, would you like some? You know, he bought me a meal deal, I had a sandwich, everything's really, really nice. He's, you know, the doting dad, holding our daughter, playing with our son, the dog's there, it's all wonderful. I'm sat there feeling sick as a dog, thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? And, you know, again, even in my head, I'm like, have I made a mistake? Have I made a mistake? Like, the control, the thought processes I'm having are just wild now on reflection. So anyway, we are starting to dock. I can see on Find My Friends that I can see that my mum and my brother are at Dover. I can see them on Find My Friends. I can see that we're coming in. And I actually took a screenshot because you can see us coming in on the boat and then they're at Dover. And I was like, I'm so close to my family. I'm so close. So we get in the car and we start driving, and you kind of like come out of the ferry and then you start driving around, and it's quite a big like loop. And I'm like, I'm texting my brother, like, the police aren't stopping us. The police aren't stopping us. Like, there's no one coming. There's no one coming. Like, panicking, thinking like, one, my family have driven all the way to Dover, and two, why is nobody stopping us? Why is nobody stopping us? And anyway, we come around this corner and we start driving, and then suddenly we get flagged down, and they kind of pull us into this like warehouse, and we stop. And the Kent police are there and they're like, hi, are you? My husband's name. I can see that this is a rental vehicle from France. Can you just step out of the vehicle? And he gets out of the vehicle. Our dog at this point is just sat in the front seat. So he gets out with the dog. They ask him to go into a room. They take him into one room. And then a woman officer comes up to me and she's like, come with me. And we pick up the kids, basically, go into a room. She like interviews me and like gets all the information of everything that's happened. I like tell her everything, like just everything. She obviously has to ask me all the standard questions as well, like, did your husband ever strangle you? That kind of stuff, you know? And I tell her everything, and she's like, you're so brave, you know, just says like so many things that, again, like, it's making me realise that like this isn't normal and like I don't deserve to be treated like this. So she says like, we're aware that your mum and your brother are literally like outside. Sorry. And I'm like this close to seeing them, right? And she's like, what do you want to do now? Because we're going to pack up all your stuff. We're going to get you out of this warehouse. And I'm like, I would like him to get to say goodbye to the kids for a minute, just because, like, you know. So she's like, right, let me go and speak to him. So she goes and speaks to him. Oh, and I'd also said to her, I'd like to take the dog. So she goes and speaks to him and says, your wife is leaving now. And he's like, apparently he's absolutely gobsmacked, because he didn't think I was capable of like lying and like this or doing anything like this. And she says to him, your wife would like to take the dog. And he says, absolutely not. And then he says, she's not taking my kid, she's an unfit mother, like all of this stuff. The PC comes back to me and she's like, I have made the decision that he's not allowed to say goodbye to your kids because of the things he's saying. Like, I think it could just go really, really south. So I've made the decision. So they pack up all of our stuff. We've got so many bags. They walk us out of this warehouse and we walk around a corner. And there's my mum and my brother. And I just, it was the first time that my family were meeting my daughter. And they were literally just together with that. We just hugged and put everything in the car. And we started driving. And I went back to Devon. So that's the end of my story of how I ended up back here in Devon.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. What a story. What a story. Dang. That was a lot. I ain't gonna lie. I am glad she got back to her family where she has some support. I want to say rest in peace to her father. That husband or ex-husband now, I guess. I don't know what to say about my boy right here. I'm still confused, like, damn, like, he was doing really well, man. The whole company was valued at 2 million. I'm not sure what he was doing to get it valued at that. Maybe the buyer finally found out like, oh, something going on with this business. Let me not buy this. But shit, for 2 million, man, shit, I would have tried to get a discount after that. Like, let me sell this bit for 1.5. Let me give me one. Let me get 1 million in. Shit. You know what I'm saying? But ultimately, I guess their decision was to go somewhere else and try to scale the business, but it didn't work and everything fell down here from there. You know what I'm saying? So, but ultimately, I'm glad that her and her kids are safe. I'm glad that it never got physical as well. He was definitely being mentally abusive, emotionally abusive, but ultimately, I'm glad he had, never really, never put his hands on her. At least that's what she did mention it, right? I wish her nothing but the best in rebuilding her life. Hopefully, she can get all that debt off her record, off her credit, or whatever the case is, from buying cars and leaving them there. Um, but yeah, I think she's gonna be all right. She's back with her family. She got her brothers and shit. You know what I mean? This one thing I'd be confused about. Like, well, I guess people don't be wanting to get their family in certain shit because shit can get ugly. Not only do you love your brother, you love your husband or your boyfriend as well. Because I'd be always confused on why, women don't get their brothers involved. Like, hey man, this dude talking to me crazy, especially when hands get put on y'all. Hey man, pops, I need my bro, and I need my uncle. Y'all three need to come beat his ass. You know what I'm saying? But it didn't get physical here. But brother could have made a call. Hey man, why you talking to my sister like that, bro? Don't make me come to goddamn USA and come see you, my boy. You know what I mean? But like again, ultimately, I'm glad she got two healthy kids and she was able to, you know what I'm saying, get them to safety. All right. I appreciate y'all for tuning in and rock with me. Make sure y'all smash that like button. Y'all know I love and appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all follow both Storytime channels. We Still Hustle Daily and Still Hustle Daily. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. This was a very good story. I will catch y'all on the next one. It's your boy Ray. Big play. Peace.